What's good, Toronto Raptor fans? And to those of you who are watching this and finding out for the first time, the Toronto Raptors have acquired Brandon Ingram. They walked into the deadline and they said they wanted to put something substantial. They wanted to put a piece of substance next to Scotty Barnes. Have they done that with Brandon Ingram? It's complicated. The deal involves Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, who just played. Both players just played for the Raptors. I don't believe the Raptors are done. I believe this is move one of potentially two or three. There was a lot of talk about the Raptors potentially getting involved with a different team. There's been a lot of push over the last, few weeks from the Raptors to give themselves the option to make a move like this, exhibiting guys like Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk a lot, and they have been productive players. From the Pelican side, someone screaming Booker. Well, technically, you could still technically make a move for Devin Booker right now and really give yourself a big three here. But I don't think that's necessarily in the cards. The Booker deal was ultimately, from my read of it, I'm glad that I took the time off. I realized some of y'all were probably checking out another podcast. There's plenty of podcasts going on right now. I'm sure there's tons of Raptors content, Raptors people. So I appreciate y'all. Coming over here and supporting us for sure. There's plenty of Pelicans pods, and I was really glad to have that 20 minutes to just type some DMs and just get a feeler. I know a lot of people at least people who covered Brandon Ingram in Los Angeles, at least, who might have had an instant sort of thought to it. The Raptors getting killed for this, right? The Raptors are getting killed, and the indie pick. Six Sauce saying it's the indie pick. So the Raptors did include a first-round pick in this deal. And I just want to take you through just who you've acquired here as a player, because I think that it was really important that, we set the messaging right for who Brandon Ingram is as a basketball player, right? What's going wrong? And recruiter dude saying, oh, why? Okay. So if you're against this trade, there's a couple reasons why you're probably against this trade. Number one, injury history. Number two, contract. Number three, timing, right? Number four, draft pick. Hey, why did we give up an Indiana pick for that? That Indiana pick was effectively, one of the saving graces, if not the only. I mean, really, if you traded the Indiana pick, which I haven't seen here, you've traded away most of what you got for Pascal Siakam to get Brandon Ingram. And what Brandon Ingram wants this offseason is Pascal Siakam money. So there's a lot of reasons, right, to hate this. Okay, there's a lot of reasons to hate this. There's a lot of reasons to hate this. I'll give you 1,000 others during this live. We need to have a nuanced discussion about who Brandon Ingram is as a basketball player, though. But there's a couple of reasons to love it, and I want to give you those two, just so we don't get all doom and gloom about everything. Brandon Ingram is a phenomenal talent. When Kevin Durant was being shopped by the Brooklyn Nets, there were two teams that, emerged as contending for his services, the Toronto Raptors and the New Orleans Pelicans at the time. And the Pelicans were willing to trade anything but Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. So I just want to be clear that that was on the table a couple of years ago when he was moved. That's what Brandon Ingram was seen as. Brandon Ingram was seen as a substantial player in the NBA. Brandon Ingram was seen as next up. Brandon Ingram was seen as a real all-star level talent that could ascend to something more, right? And he is only 27, and he hasn't played a hell of a lot of basketball throughout his career. He spent a lot of time injured, and he's injured right now. So, again, even when I'm saying there's something good here, if you're the Toronto Raptors, you are buying very low on Brandon Ingram. I'll give you another reason that you probably, could be a little bit freaked out about this deal. And that is that Brandon Ingram walked into media day for the Pelicans this year and basically said, I'm looking to get paid. I'm looking to get paid. And if you're the Toronto Raptors, congratulations. You are now the team that's going to have to pay him. And you're going to have to pay him in the context of a team that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, that isn't going to get a playoff run out of Brandon Ingram unless things look very different for him. And I got to be honest, you really have to have balls of steel to pull off a deal like this. Now, what have the Raptors really given up? I consider Bruce Brown a nothing burger. I consider Bruce Brown something that the Raptors just were holding on to. And honestly, I don't consider him an asset of any consequence at all. I think he's a serviceable guy, but at 23 million, you'd be crazy to think you're going to get substantially more for him than this. You weren't getting picks back for him. You might have gotten a second round pick to eat salary. Here you have taken an expiring for an expiring. So there's no incentive for the New Orleans Pelicans to ever do something like this, to lose the talented, younger, more marketable player without something coming back their way. Kelly Olynyk, great, stint in Toronto. Love Kelly. Really happy for him that he got a chance to play in his hometown. Sad for him that he's now going to go to the Pelicans. But honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of that deal when they signed it. Kelly Olynyk doesn't necessarily like age well in this contract situation. It's not the greatest deal for the Raptors. So technically, you do get off of $13 million of Kelly Olynyk's expiring contract next year, which you will hopefully use to facilitate some of that money. Now, the Indiana pick, honestly, this could backfire. If Indiana's bad next year, you just gave up a lottery pick again. All right. But if we assume that things are even, it's also possible that Indiana could be like in the 20s with that 2026 first round pick, at which point maybe you don't mind so much. You don't give up your own pick, you retain most of your young assets. And oh, by the way, you don't really want to fully judge this Brandon Ingram move before you see what else the Raptors will do. And what's important is every single component that I laid out that the Raptors could trade, by the way, in that Devin Booker deal, which probably won't happen now because Jimmy Butler has already been shipped off. And the whole reason to do that Devin Booker deal was Jimmy Butler going to Phoenix. Well, you still have all those assets. You still have Emmanuel Quickly. You still have RJ Barrett. You still have most of your first round picks. You still have Jacoby, Grady, Jonathan Mobo, a bevy of rookies. You still have everything. What you've done is you've taken two of your, I'm assuming, I don't know which second round pick it was, but if it is the Indiana pick, which some of you are saying it is, you've taken two of your next three picks, and possibly you've done that because you believe in the picks that already hit this year. I'm not saying those picks were meaningless. They were valuable assets. You got rid of them. You had to give up something to get something. And what you've gotten is a very talented player. Now, let me tell you what's been wrong with Brandon Ingram the last couple of years and what I think the Raptors are thinking in terms of trading for him. Big salute here to the super chats. Keep them coming. But yes, Pepper Jack, $20. It's going to be harder to double Scotty now that BI is on the floor. So easy offense for Scotty. They're actually pretty similar, weirdly enough. Medved saying, "What's our starting lineup? Quickly, Grady, Scotty, Ingram, Pirtle. It's a hell of a starting five, wouldn't you say?" What happened to? Whoa, no, Brandon Ingram is replacing Grady, bro. Grady going to the bench. No, RJ is definitely starting in this situation. Okay. It's the Indiana pick. Yeah. So Indiana picture, the Indiana pick was an asset that you had in your holster, but you still have your first round pick this year. You didn't trade that. That's a huge asset, by the way. I just want to be clear about something. The Raptors walk into this offseason, provided Brandon Ingram doesn't play a hell of a lot, and provided they can get him on a reasonable deal. They walk into this offseason with a boatload of young players, a top 5, top 6, top 7-ish pick. Let's see what they do, because I'm going to be honest, you just lost two players who were helping you win a lot. And you got a whole bunch of players who are on the injury reserve list. Emmanuel Quickly's coming back. He hasn't looked perfect. I don't think the Raptors have done it all, but we will see. We will see what the hell. The Lakers got Mark Williams. So help me God, man. I hate the Charlotte Hornets so much. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. All right. The Lakers are trading for a rising 7'2" center, giving the franchise a starting center in Williams, who fits the profile of athleticism. Okay. So Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, and the 2031 first round pick, and a 2030 pick swap to Charlotte for center Mark Williams. Yo, they gave up everything to get Mark Williams. That's incredible. Wow. They gave up Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, and a first round pick unprotected for Mark Williams. Yo, Mark's a good player, but holy shit, that's desperate. Okay. I mean, let's not get crazy here. That's nuts. No. Salute to the 825 of you that are in here. If you're discovering Pensare Basketball for the first time, just want to plug in that we do post-game lives for the Toronto Raptors every single night, and they're live and they're lit. Okay. Another, so please do subscribe. BR says Lakers called for Jakob, asked minimum first. Yeah. So I both hate and love this move. Okay, so let's talk about what went wrong with Brandon Ingram in New Orleans. Okay, so the last couple of years with Willie Green as a coach. Now I've watched one Pelicans game live in which I don't think Brandon Ingram was even playing in that game. So BI is a super talented player who's had an injury history for sure. But his shot diet over the last couple of years has changed. He hasn't really evolved very much as a basketball player over the last couple of years. Now, I believe, and I'm going to give you the rosy-eyed, very cockeyed optimist approach to this, and I want to give you the version of this that works. Okay, I want to give you the version of this that works out perfectly, and Masai Ujiri looks like a genius, instead of the version of this that looks horrible, and Masai Ujiri looks like a jackass. Let me give you the version that he looks like. Let me give you the version that he looks like a jackass first. Okay, jackass version first. 2 years from now, we look back on this deal. Brandon Ingram is injured, overpaid, and that Indiana pick ends up being like a lottery pick because the Indiana Pacers fall apart without Miles Turner. Okay. And you overpay for Brandon Ingram, which necessarily the Raptors do overpay pretty much everybody. They overpaid Kelly Olynyk. They overpay everybody. So they're going to overpay this dude as well. You're probably going to pay north of $40 million to get him. And it's probably going to crunch your books. Okay. That's one thing. Now, the Raptors had at least Kelly Olynyk and possibly Scotty Barnes is super max kicking in next year. He's not really going to be vying for a super max given where the Raptors are in the standings. So at the very least, you save that $45 million. Do you park some of it for Brandon Ingram? Do you maybe move RJ Barrett at next year? So yeah, point is there's a version of this in which Brandon Ingram gets overpaid. The Indiana pick looks really good. The Raptors fail. They suck. And you're just sitting there next year saying, shit, how do we get off this contract? Okay. That's the version of this that sucks. He doesn't buy in. He doesn't like it here. He doesn't like the team. He doesn't like the coach. And it just doesn't work. Okay. That's the version that sucks. Now, let me sell you on the version of this that is actually really great for the Raptors. The version of this that's really great for the Raptors is that Brandon Ingram is a suppressed asset, that Brandon Ingram did not get along with his head coach, Willie Green, that he did not like their style of basketball. Over the last couple of years, he's slowly stopped attacking the basket as much. His shot profile has become really redundant and somewhat unproductive. I believe that the New Orleans Pelicans are a terrible, terrible, terrible place to play basketball right now. Nothing is growing there right now, and I feel like everyone has just looked a lot worse than they really are. There's a lot of injuries. Zion Williamson as your franchise player is a bit of a mood killer, if at all. He's a very heavy personality right now, and he's got a lot of baggage. He's got a lot of poundage and he's got a lot of baggage. And I'm not saying he's a bad dude. By all accounts, he's a fantastic dude. I just feel like that organization is very heavy right now. DeJounte Murray also, the injury, everything that's been going on there. It just feels like there isn't a lot of clarity or certainty or optimism in that organization. And I feel like that can wear on someone's mental health. Brandon Ingram has looked increasingly despondent over the last couple of years. He just hasn't looked like he's been playing with a hell of a lot of joy. So I think that there's a version of this where he comes into Toronto, he enjoys the city, he enjoys Scotty, they form a bit of a connection. There's a little bit of joy there. He enjoys being with this young team, RJ, Emmanuel Quickly. He enjoys, Jama and Darko and Evo in the practices. He takes a liking to guys like Jacoby and Jonathan Mobo and starts to see a future in which Toronto rises up again with him as a real big centerpiece of that. And he buys into it. I think that Darko can connect with Brandon Ingram. I know he can connect with Brandon Ingram. I think he's going to connect with Brandon Ingram, and I think he's going to make him a better player. And I think Brandon Ingram wants to be a better basketball player because nobody becomes as good as Brandon Ingram has been through most of his life as a basketball player without a sincere love for the game. And I don't feel like that love for the game has really been there the last couple of years. I got to tell you, I've watched a lot of Brandon Ingram. He is one of my favorite young players. He was one of my favorite young players for a very long time. I mentioned this before. I love Brandon Ingram. Every freaking time I would fire up 2K. Okay, Lakers, let's make a trade for Brandon Ingram. Let me make him my starting small forward, right? Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes are very similar basketball players. Very similar basketball players. There's differences for sure. You know, BI might have a little bit more of a polished handle, but I think they're similar in the sense that they're both 6'9" wings that are really damn hard to stop. When they get it going, they're really hard to stop. And I think that from what I've heard from the camps of the people around these players and whatever, is can we get a piece around Scotty that has that level of skill set? Now you gotta understand both of these players have been playing with depleted rosters, lack of spacing. Now they have each other. There's something really weird about being a five-star recruit. There's something weird about being a McDonald's All-American and being the best player and a max player is sometimes you need someone to bounce shit off of. You need a little bit of that camaraderie. Kyle needed DeMar just as much as Dirk needed Nash. You know, sometimes it just helps to have one to bounce off of. And I'm hoping, at least for the Raptors' sake, that Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes is a vibe. I'm hoping that Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes are two people that can push each other in practice. I'm hoping that they can see each other in each other, you know, that they can sort of identify that, hey, like they're like we are like that level of player. And if we want to put something together, that we can do something amazing in Toronto with Emmanuel Quickly and potentially RJ Barrett. They're also similar in the sense that they're switchable and they're long. Now, I have talked at length about how small Toronto is, how routinely small they are. Brandon Ingram is basically, for all intents and purposes, provided some of his burst comes back with injury and rehab, if the Raptors medical staff can do some good stuff, right? Dr. Dread saying, we just gave up a first round pick for a player who's leaving at the end of the season. Leaving for where, bro? Leaving for where? For who? No, you will have a chance to re-sign him, and I don't think you make this deal in a million years if you don't think you will re-sign him and that you are going to re-sign him and that you have an okay from his camp that you're re-signing him. He's not going anywhere. Does this mean RJ is gone, or is there a world where he can stay, especially if the defense keeps improving? So the beautiful thing about the Raptors offense and the way that it runs, right, is that you can actually have multiple players, and it actually helps to have multiple players who can create their own shot. It really does. Okay. Now you have Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickly, Brandon Ingram, and RJ Barrett. Do you understand what I'm describing to you? You have to really understand the level of talent that this guy is. Now I'm not about to sit here and play clip upon clip upon clip of Brandon Ingram doing some superstar shit. But realistically, you haven't had a player this talented since Kawhi Leonard. I'm just being honest with you. You really haven't. Like, Brandon Ingram actualized. I'm not saying Brandon Ingram this year or last year. I'm talking Brandon Ingram, the hypothetical actualized, is the most talented player you've had here since Kawhi Leonard. I believe Scotty will be a much better player than Brandon Ingram, but he's not refined enough to get there yet. I mean, you have to look at all the shot packages and the counters and the footwork and the gathers. Like, you really do have to understand basketball well enough to be able to dissect Brandon Ingram's talent. There is a reason this guy's been compared to Kevin Durant for most of his life. He was taken in the draft over Jason fucking Tatum. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he is injury prone. Yes, he is. Does this box Scotty into playing the four since Ingram is too slight to guard at that position? I mean, I think the four and the three and the two are somewhat dated concepts, and they don't really have to be viewed that way. Like, it doesn't have to be like, okay, this guy's a four and this guy's a three. I think in terms of defending, you want Scotty in the lower third of your defense. It's actually proven to be quite productive for him. Offensively, I think he's a massive upgrade over Grady Dick. I think defensively, he's a massive upgrade over Grady Dick. There's really nothing that Grady Dick does right now that's even remotely on the level of a Brandon Ingram. He's a better passer, better scorer. I mean, shit. If Grady doesn't bring up his shooting percentages, there's a level of like what we watched last what we watched tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies, how they guarded him, how they guarded Scotty Barnes. You can't do that with Brandon Ingram on the court. You just can't. Brandon Ingram draws in the same type of scouting report that Scotty does. You just doubled your creators in that sense. And no, before you come at me with this, RJ Barrett is not better at creating his own shot than Brandon Ingram. Like get some perspective on that. Now, again, as I said, Brandon Ingram has been regressing hard. He is 27 years old. It's not uncommon, if not impossible, for a player to be a fundamentally different player after 27. The theory of this, and I said the jackass version of this, is you are paying for a player who is past his prime, that has lost his love for the game, and he has no intentions of getting it back, that he got fat, that he got, that whatever he's gone through with the Pelicans over the last couple of years, and Willie Green has just bled him dry of any joy that he has. And by the way, if Brandon Ingram was excelling in New Orleans, let me take you through like what it would have taken you to get Brandon Ingram a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago. I mean, I'm talking 2 years ago, Scotty's rookie season going into the summer. If you had called the New Orleans Pelicans and said, "We will give you Scotty Barnes for Brandon Ingram," they hang up in your fucking face and they laugh at you. That's the starting point of what it would have taken to get Brandon Ingram a couple of years ago. I want to be clear about that. You could not have gotten Brandon Ingram a couple of years ago. The reason you're getting him right now is because he is quote unquote damaged goods, because the league has soured on him, because people feel he is losing his burst, he's losing his step, he's not able to beat defenses consistently off the dribble. And because of that, I feel like you have to look at this in one of two ways. You can look at this as the regression is permanent, that the trajectory is down, that it's never going to get better. Or you can look at this the way you look at RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly and basically every single player you brought in, which is, let's see if we can fix what's broken here. We're the fixers. We have this great development staff. We have this great culture. People are happy here. People are happy and they feel wanted here. I said it, in yesterday's live, and I was really proud of myself for really committing the 5-6 minutes that it took to say that. But the first thing that I want to know as a player is, am I safe here? Am I safe in your hands? Are you trying to make me a better basketball player? Are we about the right stuff? Organizationally, culturally, are we about the right stuff? Brandon Ingram is going to find out very quickly that Darko Rajakovic, Masai Ujiri, all these dudes are about the right stuff. Look, the Raptors have wanted a talented player to put next to Scotty Barnes for a while. They unfortunately felt that OG and Pascal were going to be a little bit too expensive. Now, here's the thing. Pascal Siakam is, at the moment, definitively a better player overall than Brandon Ingram. So the difference here is, if you can fix Brandon Ingram, and I'll say fix, I don't mean that lightly. There's a lot to fix here. You need to fix his health. You need to fix his joy for the game. You need to fix his shot diet. You probably need to fix his shot a little bit to make him even more effective. It is worth noting that, he has been hovering around 35, 36, 37% for most of his career. So it's not like he's a bad shooter. You didn't just trade for Ben Simmons, but it's not the super highest volume. It's important to get buy-in from your players. What I'm saying is, there's a version of this that you can make him 2 times the asset that Pascal Siakam is within a year of development. And there's a version of this where you can make him half the asset. There's a lot of play in terms of the upside and downside of Brandon Ingram. He's a risk. He is a major risk. You as a Raptors did not get a sure bet. But here's my question to you. How many All-Stars at 27 years old that are sure bets right now can you get for Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, and whatever the hell else, you offered, an Indiana pick and a second round pick? How many? I'll tell you what it was really. I mean, if you want to put something next to him at 27 years old, really the only other option, 27, 28, shot maker, ex All-Star, you're looking at Devin Booker. It was Devin Booker, Brandon Ingram. It was one of those two guys. There's really not another guy. De'Aaron Fox was another example. So all of these players, I believe the Raptors called about all of them. And I'll guarantee you, all of them, you're paying like 5 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks in those situations. And, oh, by the way, it takes 2 to tango. De'Aaron Fox didn't want to be here. He wanted to be in San Antonio. So it's just like, if Brandon Ingram likes Toronto, which I suspect very strongly that he does, and I've heard that he does, and he's happy in this culture, I think you'll see the best version of Brandon Ingram that you've seen in years here. And now you've rehabbed his value. Now he's seen as a positive asset going into his prime. 28 years old, Brandon Ingram. Suddenly he's healthy. Suddenly he's making all-star teams again. Him and Scotty are making all-stars. I think the other thing that you have to really pay attention to here is, what is this really about? This is about timelines. Okay. So I don't know how long Brandon Ingram is going to be out. We'll see. The Raptors could potentially hold him out. They can give him like a couple exhibition games and then kind of hold him out and just trust that he's going to be healthy. That's sort of the risk right now that you run if you're the Toronto Raptors, is you're not going to get like a really long runway to make an evaluation over what you can really do with him. But you'll be able to get him in your building. You'll be able to see his work habits. You'll be able to see his mental state. You'll be able to get all of that, right? So the way I'm seeing this from the perspective of the Raptors is, if we get this guy in our building right now, we start working with him. We work all summer to correct what we think is wrong. Let's say we also make another move tomorrow, right? Where something is going to break tomorrow, probably for Chris Boucher, Davion Mitchell, those guys. I'm assuming those guys aren't being kept around, but if they are, cool, right? Jakob Poeltl potentially. I mean, you have so many pieces. What did you really lose for him? You probably lost your 11th, 12th. I don't know. If I had to rank out the Raptors' assets, you probably just traded your 9th, 10th, and 11th best asset for him. Kelly Olynyk, it didn't have a lot of value around the league, man. I mean, you could say you wanted a first round pick for him or whatever, but he's been healthy for, I mean, he's what, 33, 34. He's on $13 million deal. Guys like him are, readily available for $5-6 million around the league. I don't think that was a super positive deal for the Raptors. So, yeah. Okay, let's take a look at some more super chats here. Matthew Coombs. Okay, wait. Does this mean RJ is gone? Okay, wait. W trade, hit the like button. Appreciate you, Resident One. Arland H. Does this mean RJ is gone? Or is there a world where he can stay, especially if defense keeps improving? There's certainly a world in which he can stay. Unfortunately, that next extension, which RJ is eligible for this summer, could get a little expensive for the Raptors if Brandon Ingram's extension kind of kicks into it. So, yes, the Raptors will have to probably make a choice at some point between Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and Brandon Ingram. It's a pretty cool thing to have to make a choice between three really good players, though. Pepperjack, does this box Scotty into playing the floor? Sorry, we looked at that super chat. Yeah, I think they're both interchangeable. I think it's pretty cool to, if you look at Brandon Ingram's crafted shot profile and stuff. Hang on one second. I'm just going to pull it up and so you can get an evaluation or an understanding of what Brandon Ingram looks like in a really down year, where his free throw rate is probably terrible and all that stuff. Hang on. So let me pull this up. So this is Brandon Ingram according to the crafted analytics. 86th percentile offense, 34th percentile defense. And this is a terrible year for him. 65th percentile in terms of shot quality is low for Brandon Ingram. The free throw rate being 58th percentile is low for Brandon Ingram. True shooting percentage, 57th percentile, low, reasonably, right? But he's a rebounder. He's a great passer. 80th percentile passer at 6'9". Do you understand what we're talking about here? He justifiably was a top 5 pick for a reason, right? His creation, 95th percentile, load, 95th percentile. As a rebounder, he is positive. Defensive versatility, positive, right? Decent-ish shot blocker, not a great shot blocker, but decent. Like, he provides you with a lot of length and a lot of size. Again, I've been critical of the fact that the Raptors are a small team. Brandon Ingram helps you with that. He makes you bigger, okay? You really didn't have a player like this on your team. I tell you right now, Scotty Barnes' second best teammate is very definitively Brandon Ingram right now. It's not RJ Barrett and it's not Emmanuel Quickley. It is definitively him. And I do believe that, I think playing with a big like Jakob Poeltl who can play make a little bit is going to help BI. A BI plus Jakob Poeltl pick and roll, bro, get bent if you think that's not going to be hard to stop. That's going to be very hard to stop. A Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl pick and roll with Brandon Ingram and Emmanuel Quickley on both wings. I mean, you really are talking about like a really talented team right now. Like, you really upgraded your talent like significantly. For most of the games without Zion, if not all the games without Zion, this guy has been the best player on a team that has routinely been above 500. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Do you understand how hard it is to be the best player on a team that's above 500? Cade has never done it. This guy is more talented than Cade Cunningham. Let me put it that way for you. The best version of Brandon Ingram is better than the best version of Cade Cunningham. I'm not even saying this is the best version of him and Cade is 23 and all that stuff, but this is a really good player, okay, with a lot of risks. So, yeah, Cade just be catching strays out of nowhere, right? BI better than Bosch. I don't know about that. Mark B saying, I still hope they tank. I think they will. I mean, two of the pieces that were kind of stopping you from tanking, which are, your exhibition of Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk precisely to make this deal. you know, it's sort of funny how that sort of broke out. They're gone and they were productive for you. Kelly Olynyk is productive for you. So overall, like, yes, this is tough for sure. Chris Haynes breaking that KD is not going anywhere. I completely agree with that. Now, if you're the Toronto Raptors, make that call for Devin Booker and just do it. Just go all in, man. Fuck it. I have a very fuck it attitude towards this right now. I'm being like that compulsive, like, okay, you're already in on this. You're super expensive. Now go get Devin Booker and go try to win a championship. Matthew Coombs with a super chat here. How is it that we have Ingram's bird rights when we didn't have Kawhi's in the same situation? I'm not a capologist, but someone correct me if I'm wrong. Did we not have Kawhi's bird rights? Of course we did. Didn't we? Someone help me out. Yeah, we did. Yeah. So Anthony De Silva saying we didn't. No, we did. We could have signed him. How do you think we were going to sign him? We were an over the cap team. We were extending massively into the luxury tax, and he wanted a max contract. Of course, we had his bird rights. Yes, we did. We did. The Clippers did not get Kawhi because we couldn't offer him enough money. They offered him the same amount of money, and I think actually he left some money on the table. If I'm not mistaken, I think we actually had a better offer. Yeah. She was saying we had Kawhi's bird rights. Thank you very much. Of course you did. Okay. Clippers had cap room to start Kawhi. Bird rights didn't matter other than offering the fifth year. This is exactly it. So it's actually not just a fifth year; it's maximum raises. So when you have the bird rights, you can offer more years. So the fifth year, typically for a player around Kawhi's age with Kawhi's injury history, the fifth year is actually very, very, very important. Now I don't remember if Kawhi signed a 4-year deal. I think he signed a 4-year deal, which he just re-upped with the Clippers. So yes, the Raptors could have offered 5 and they could have offered more raises. So Kawhi actually left money on the table to go to the Clippers. It's worth noting that he recouped all that money from New Balance, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways, Johnny saying BI is an unrestricted free agent next year. He is an unrestricted free agent this summer. Yes, he is unrestricted, which means the Raptors will have 30 games, right, to sell him. But yo, I just got to be real about with this. There's no way in hell you have not gotten the all clear from his camp and you just traded a first round pick for him. If you had just traded Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown, then I would understand. But there's no way in hell Brandon Ingram got a first round pick in a trade and there isn't already an agreement or an understanding in terms of what that next contract is going to look like. He is 100% going to come back to the Toronto Raptors or he's going to be traded. Like, is only two options. The Raptors are not losing him for nothing. Now, did the Raptors grab him today only to trade him to the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow? No, that's not happening either. Okay. So, look, I believe very strongly that the New Orleans Pelicans are a mixed bag organization. Okay. I really do believe that. Like, I think this is a team that is extremely great at scouting. I think they are an extremely. I trust Willie Green a little bit, like as a coach. Like I do think he's a good coach. So I don't want to throw everything on out with the bathwater. Obviously, I was very very high on Dyson Daniels. If you want any indication of just how much someone pops after they leave New Orleans, I mean, go look at Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels has looked a lot better, right? Is Jakob Poeltl headed to LA? No. They have lost all of their pick equity and pretty much everything to get Mark Williams. And honestly, this is where like I wish I ran an NBA team because I don't think I would have traded for Mark Williams. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be great, but I think they massively paid for that. I think I would have gone with someone like Nick Claxton or Day'Ron Sharp. But yeah, I think Mark Williams is a fantastic young player, and good for them for getting him because I mean I'm sure the Lakers fans are just planning a parade right now. I would not be surprised right now if the Lakers actually do win a championship this year. Luca, LeBron, Mark Williams, Austin Reeves. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, Blake Murphy reporting that the second round pick is the Raptors 2031 second. Okay. So that was a save face second round pick that was added. So the Raptors did not get rid of the valuable second round picks that they have, which is specifically the Portland second round pick this year. That's good. So if this is correct, then the Raptors got rid of a 2026 first round pick from the Indiana Pacers, which still leaves them, by the way, with 2 picks in that draft. So they're still good on that front. And they also look the other deal that we talked about with this, because there's like extreme, like I happen to message somebody who covers the Pelicans and he was mad. He said, I can't believe we didn't get RJ Barrett. So you had to basically put in that pick equity because you weren't moving off of RJ Barrett to do this. Now, again, like, did you want to move off of RJ Barrett? Maybe some of you did. Maybe some of you would be very upset if the Raptors moved off of RJ Barrett. But my point is Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk do not hold the type of value to command an all-star in his prime. You needed to give something. And if you've seen what players of Brandon Ingram's talent level, not Brandon Ingram's, like, did you see what Jimmy Butler just went for? Jimmy Butler is 35 years old. Okay. Jimmy Butler is 35 freaking years old right now. And in a disastrous situation where he's holding out and doesn't want to play and he's getting suspended by the team, and they gave up Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is worth more than Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown. And they gave up Dennis Schroeder, who just went for three second round picks. And they gave up Kyle Anderson, who probably could have commanded a couple seconds from a team desperate to acquire his services. And they gave up a pretty highly coveted first. So my point is the going rate here is it's decent. I'm wondered, Zodiac Jack. I'm flabbergasted by this trade. Okay, so we're gonna take some call-ins at this point. We didn't set up a call-in link, and we can't right now, unfortunately, add it. So here's the link. I'm gonna drop it. There's 1,038 of you in here. The link is in the chat. Call in if you got something to say. I'll keep dropping it every 5 minutes or so, and you let me know what you got to say about this. If you want to have your voice heard, super chat it or call in. I mean, that's probably the best way to stand out from the noise. There's over 1,000 people in here. Do you think another trade is coming from Gregory? First of all, Gregory, appreciate you always. Yes, I definitely do. Okay, Josh, welcome back. What's up?
Honestly, the more I think about this, the more I love it. And I'm even thinking maybe this is going too deep. Personally, I really like RJ. And so I'm thinking if we either trade or send IQ to the bench and just run a really lengthy lineup. And I wanted to get your thoughts.
Trade or put RJ on the bench?
IQ to the bench, and that way we could keep RJ at the 2 or at the wherever he fits in, I guess.
I don't know how comfortable Emmanuel quickly is going to be losing his starting spot. Do you have the headphones? Because I'm hearing echo.
I don't.
Okay. So yeah, just hit mute when you're done talking so I can talk so we're not hearing me twice. But yeah, I don't love the idea of moving Emmanuel quickly to the bench. Personally, I think I get where you're coming from, but yeah, I think Emmanuel quickly is needed to provide space for Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes. and I don't think RJ provides that space. So moving your best spacer to the bench in place of what, Grady Dick? Now you're huge, so that helps. You're a very, very big team. So with Scotty at the one. But my question is, which of the following four players are you putting on the opposing point guard? Brandon Ingram? No. Grady Dick? No. Scotty Barnes? Not really. RJ Barrett? Not really. So yeah. Raheem and Steve-O, welcome to, I guess, the space or the Colin show. What's up, guys?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Brooke also coming up. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Sorry, bro. I'm literally at work while this trade is happening. Hold up. Oh, nah.
Are
This
you
is
happy?
crazy. I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm only happy we signed him though. Like if we don't sign him, then I'm actually kind of worried. But I'm assuming I do think Masai is a smart enough man where he's only gonna make this deal if he's Bi promised to sign a long term contract. So I'm assuming he's giving Masai the thumbs up. So that's good. I'm happy, very excited. The Indiana pick. Listen, people were like crying that we gave up the Indiana pick for Bi. Look at it this way: what's the chances that we draft someone like Bi using that Indiana pick? It's very slim, right? So that's why this deal makes so much sense. Now he's also injured as well, so he doesn't hurt the tank because they can still, say that he's injured. He might not even play this season, so it helps the tank. It helps us compete for next season. I think this is like a perfect deal. It makes sense.
Okay.
I thought you brought up a good point as far as I'm looking at our draft pick this year and I'm going, if he doesn't play, that actually helps the tank. So good point there, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, of course, it does help the thing. I'm gonna pin the message with the call-in link at the top, so y'all got the call-in link. Happy to have anyone else who hasn't spoken. Just give me your opinions. What's up?
We didn't give away too much. That was the number one thing. It's like as long as that 2025 is safe, and then by surprise, the Portland 2025, we can get another Mobo, and then again, if we try the play-in, if the lowest in the lottery we can go is 9, technically, then and to have a play-in try, we would probably Atlanta Hawk it, 2024 it, and then end up maybe being in the top 3 by absolute luck with a low expectation. So I think we're in actually a good position to, if Ingram shows up in the final 20 games, and then let's just say we go into barely play-in, either lose that play-in as the lowest of the play-in possibility, and then we can just like shock everybody and pop up to like 6 when we think we're going to only be 10th or 9th.
Sure. Okay. Anyone else? Thoughts?
I have a question. What do you think this does for RJ? Like, do you think we trade him? Do you think there's still
They're
time?
not moving RJ.
You
They're
don't think
not moving
so?
RJ. I think business is business, and whether we like it or not, they're not trading the Canadian kid, man. It's politics. They're just, unless there's something that comes up that's like a must, you have to do it. Masai and even the Raptors have proved that they care about that. They care about homegrown talent or
They
people
just
that are
traded Kelly Olynyk, bro.
Yeah, I know. He's Canadian
Yeah,
as
but
well.
that
That's what
doesn't
I'm
count,
saying.
man. He was here
That's
for a
different.
coffee, bro.
Kelly
I don't want to
Olynyk.
trade RJ
Kelly
because
Olynyk is
of what
as much
happened
from
last
here.
year.
Kelly Olynyk is as much from here as anybody.
Yeah.
The bro played for Scarborough Blues, man.
Yeah,
He was a solid
he's all
veteran. No,
city.
anybody is movable. If the Raptors are thinking that way, they deserve to be fired. That's not the right way to think about
No,
this at all.
exactly. It's just weird because now, like, let's say we add the player, like, let's say we add a top 5 pick. I was assuming that the top 5 pick that we draft this year is going to start next year. Now I don't think so because we have IQ, Bi, Scotty, RJ, Yak. Like, our starting 5 is already like solidified.
Why is that a bad thing?
No, it's not a bad thing. You're right, but I thought
Can you imagine if that top 5 pick is actually if that top 5 pick is actually Cooper Flag?
If it's Cooper Flag, well, we're gonna move Cooper Flag in the bench. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
If it's Flag or
Flag
Hahn, I
ain't going
think
without
they're
Flag
starting.
ain't going on the bench. I don't even think Dylan Harper's going on the bench, man.
Do you
exactly, that's what I'm
not think
saying.
that
So
they
who's
would
gonna
move
go?
off
Who's
of
gonna come off the
IQ?
bench?
Do you not think they
IQ,
would move off IQ
easily
before
IQ.
RJ?
But why would you pay a man $35 million just so he can like be your sixth man? Like he already played that role in New York, so it doesn't really make sense for him. I don't know. It's weird.
But at that point, it's not what makes sense for him. It's what makes sense for the team, you know?
That's true. But yeah, I mean, I think Emmanuel Quickly is a starting point guard in the NBA. He may
Same
not be
here.
one of the top 10, 12 starting point guards in the NBA, but he's also 25 years old, super hard worker. And you need the shooting around these two players who like to operate in the mid post. Like
Yeah.
Scotty and Brandon Ingram are going to have to learn how to play together. And that's going to be a clunky, process over the next few weeks. So, we'll figure it out, see how long they hold them out. And naturally, if the Raptors do want to keep winning right now, I got news for you. You actually got a chance in the play-in.
What's Ingram's health right now?
What's his health? He's out with an ankle sprain.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's been
okay.
out since early December.
Yeah.
December 7th. He's been out
Yeah.
since December 7th. So I don't know if they were holding him out for a
Ankle
trade,
sprain, or
and
was it trade, or did he have a symptom called traditis?
he might have had a traditis symptom. Yes. So that could have been it. I also want to say I do believe a record for this channel was 1,100 on a live stream once. I do believe we peaked at 1,100, but this is like really close to the record. We got to 1,045 today, which is pretty cool. Very cool. Yeah. So yeah. Elton, if you're still trying to get on here, you need to connect a mic or a camera. You need to connect something. Like you
Wait,
can't.
Pan. Sorry,
What's up?
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I missed like the beginning of the stream, so like I didn't see your opinion on it. Like, what do you think about the trade?
I haven't really actually even shared my opinion on it. That's the
Oh,
funny
wow.
part. I mean, I've been holding people hostage for 47 minutes. Just wait for what I think about this.
Yo, your opinion's much better than a couple years ago when you found out they traded for Yak. We didn't get the fuck.
Oh, because I don't feel that way. I just don't feel that way right now.
I think
Like,
this is like one of those situations where now it's like I don't even care what happens this season, tank or play, and it's like now I just don't care, you know. Whatever happens, happens. I'm good with.
I mean, first of all, Jakob Poeltl and Brandon Ingram is a really different
Yeah.
equation.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention that I think you gave up just as much for
Right.
Brandon Ingram as you gave up for Jakob Poeltl. Should that shine a light on just how terrible that first deal was? I don't think this is a bad deal. I don't think this is a good deal. Honestly, I think this is a wait and see deal because number one, it depends on. Now, first of all, I'm going to rule out that he's not happy about this. I'm going to tell
For
you
sure.
right now, I reached out to a few people about this a couple of weeks ago when the Brandon Ingram stuff started to bubble up, and everything I got back was he would welcome it. He would welcome it. He loves Toronto. So that's why I've been saying, like, this is why I've been saying he would love being here. That's what I'm basing it on. If they're all wrong, they're wrong. But that's what I felt. Okay. Also getting so I don't doubt that he wants to be here. I don't doubt that he wants to stay here. Don't worry about the cold or any of that shit. You don't care about that. So the end result is, do we overpay to keep him in the summer? Which means, do we go 50 million with him? If we go 50 million with him, now you're going to see me say, oh no, because I don't think he's earned 50 million. I think he's earned probably a deal close to 35-ish. And even that is like, you're taking a risk. There's injuries, there's regression here. He hasn't been the same player over the last 2 years. He's not playing like a player who wants to get paid right now. Now, he could come out for Toronto and ball out. And trust me, this is a guy who can look like the best player in the league on any given night. When I say that, I mean it. Like, his best games really do give you the vibes that he's like one of the top 5 players in the league. So I think with the Raptors, you trade for him now, you get a feel for him. It's a lot you can figure out about a player once they're in your building, right? So again, I'm not committing it to like, this is the greatest deal in the world, because it's not. It's definitely not. I could certainly have lived with us not doing this, but it's also not a bad deal. You know what I mean?
Gives us a bucket getter, like someone that can just go out and like pretty much at any point get us back from a 20-point deficit. At any
Sure.
moment he could just catch on fire and get us back in games. Like, we do have RJ, but RJ is a little sketchy sometimes. I feel a little bit more confident with the ball in Ingram's hand if we need to climb back into a game when the games matter.
Yeah, and you need a mid-range guy. You need a go-to guy who can score in the half court, like who can generate his own shot, has a pull-up in his game, who's just who's a 3-level scorer. So hopefully he can get better. He's 27 years old. But if you really take it in, we traded Pascal Siakam for Brandon Ingram, Ochai Agbaji, and Jacoby Walter, which is, looking back at it now, is not that bad.
No, not at all.
I think that's great. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
what I'm saying. Like, that's that's crazy.
Wait, say that again.
We traded Pascal Siakam for Brandon Ingram, Jacoby Walter, and Ochai Agbaji. Because remember, we traded a pick for Ochai Agbaji. That was part of the Pascal Siakam deal.
Yeah,
And we also we got Kelly Olynyk in that deal, which we
Yeah.
just shuttered off to this. So
That's
yeah,
what I'm
you're
saying.
right.
That's why I said Brandon Ingram, Ochai, and Jacoby. So not that bad for Pascal. Like, everyone was shitting on that deal. That's at first, but now it's looking pretty good right now.
I don't
Yeah.
look picking up Bruce Brown's option in the summer now either.
Yeah.
Shiraz Raheem saying, how does BI compare to Siakam statistically? Okay, so I mean, while I say that,
They're the same.
You think they're the same?
Statistically, they're the same.
On
BI's
paper,
better
they're
in
the same.
Yeah,
BI's
okay.
better on the field goals in terms of like range. Siakam's a little bit better in the paint.
Okay.
If I had to choose, I'd take BI though. But yeah, on paper, they look like the same player. But
I mean, statistically, here's their stats, right? Like, that's this year, and it's just worth noting Siakam's having like a great year in a great context, and Brandon Ingram is not. Brandon Ingram is, in my opinion, like, one of the things that I really hated about Siakam here was just his inefficiency. He was consistently close to 57-ish% true shooting. Well, that's kind of where Brandon Ingram is right now, right? It's the inefficiency. When you're not playing in a super fast-paced, really efficient offensive system next to a Tyrese Halliburton and an Andrew Nembhard, which BI is not, you're going to look bad. But if the Indiana Pacers had traded for Brandon Ingram, I think he would look just as good in Indiana as Siakam does. Like, you basically got a younger, and also he's 4 years younger than Siakam. Can we keep that in context, right?
Yeah.
I also think it's really worth noting, if you want to look at Brandon Ingram in his all-star season, which, by the way, it was when he was 22 years old, first year in New Orleans. So he made an all-star team when he was 22. That's very rare company. That's the Scotty Barnes, right? He made it while per 100 possessions putting up 32 points, 8.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists. And oh, by the way, those 5.5 assists have morphed into 8.5 assists per 100 possessions. I mean, Jesus Christ, 38 and 6. If you put his numbers next to Scotty, is like the same shit.
That makes it a great deal. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So defensively, he's not quite Scotty. That's
all.
the big deal. But
Yeah.
offensively, he's giving you a lot of Scotty Barnes impact, right? So I'm most curious to understand how the relationship on court, off court can be developed between these two guys so that they're not redundant, But Brandon Ingram is the better shooter right now by far. So the better outside shooter is naturally going to play off the ball a little bit more. Zigsaw Puzzle, what's up?
Hey Rob.
How's it going?
Good. Good to be back. So do you think who do you think is the first option now?
I mean, that will remain to be seen. RJ Barrett is currently your leading scorer. I think your lead decision maker should still be Scotty Barnes. Obviously, this is still Scotty's team. Brandon Ingram ain't changing that. This is still Scotty's team. But I think now you have a multitude of places you can go to close a game, which I think is interesting and probably helps, right? So I want to say this is cleavage. Cleavage? Is this clavage? Okay. Still need rim protection from a big that can make his free throws in the clutch. Sorry, Yak. A spacing big would be a cheat code for this team right now.
Oh my God.
Miles Turner.
If you could make a deal for Miles Turner right now, That would be great.
But I don't
Or
really like Miles Turner though. Like I don't know. I feel he's an
I feel like a
overrated
lot of people
defensive
don't.
center.
Yeah, it's not about his defense; it's about the spacing. But
I
yes,
understand, but
I mean, overall, Brandon Ingram's career best year was statistically, at least, 2020, 2022. Now, look at the games played. He has played over 60 games 3 times. Last year, relatively healthy, right? He has never had a season above 60% true shooting. So I'm going to tell you where I think Brandon Ingram's career fell off. It was this year right here. I think he has been actually this year right here. So 2021, 2022 is where I think the regression started with BI. And it has been like clockwork, down, down, and down. And his true shooting percentage has gone down 58, 50, 58, 57.8, 56. There's the turnover percentages are going up, right? 13, 12, 16% this year, right? The win shares per 48 roughly going down. The box plus minus goes from 2 to 1.7 to 1.2 to negative 0.3. Now, again, these impact metrics are meaningless when you remove the context of what is the player actually like, what are they actually doing in that team's context, right? So, what I'm trying to understand here is overall, how much better can he be in this context? Like, because we saw Scott, if you remember last year, Pascal Siakam's analytics took a huge dip trying to play into Darko's system, and everyone was complaining about it. But the minute he got to Indiana, it all came back. It's underrated to be actually happy where you're at. I think that's a really important part, that Brandon Ingram is happy that he's here. And I'm just thinking, like, yeah, Equinox 70 saying stupid trade. A lot of people think this is a very stupid trade.
I don't think so.
I mean, I'm
What's the
looking at
issue?
fit, man. Look at his 3-point percentage, though. That's the one thing. I mean, if you really look at how the team wants to play, 37% last year, 35, a little sketchy, 39, 38, 39. Like, if we're looking for players that can space the floor, like, yeah, he can get in the paint, but do we really need him to? Like, of course he will a bit, but we need space, and he provides more of that than RJ will.
That's true. Two-tone. Can y'all still see me moving? Some people said my screen was frozen. Was it frozen for a bit, or it's
I
still
didn't notice.
frozen?
It was
I
fine.
don't know.
It's
That's
good on
fine.
stream.
Okay.
It's good on stream.
You're good
I
here.
don't know about the rest.
Okay. We creating that SGA chat vibe with this trade, Scotty and BI, or am I tripping? You are tripping.
You are tripping, yeah. I have a question. This is off topic, but yo, did you guys see that Mark Williams trade?
Yep.
That's
Gateway Connect.
robbery.
Yeah,
That's
I would
actually
have loved
robbery.
that.
Wait,
That pissed me off.
who
For who?
robbed who?
Lakers robbed the Hornets, of course.
I think the Lakers are
No.
desperate in that trade.
No.
I think
No,
Charlotte
Mark
robbed him. That's
Williams is
crazy.
actually. Listen,
Lakers overpaid.
It's
do
more
you
of a
think
Yeah.
wait and
they
see.
overpaid for a 23-year-old, one of the best young centers in the league, who could
Look at what they
defend,
gave.
who's a lob threat for
How
Luka?
young is Mark Williams?
He's 23 years old
That's not bad.
with high upside and is
Is he
actually
finally
a
going to get
really
healthy?
good rim protector.
He's not a
Yeah.
really good rim
They
protector.
didn't give up nothing though. Dalton Connect is nice too.
Dalton
it's the
Connect is a
pick.
Yeah, and a
24-year-old
first-round pick
rookie.
unprotected.
Like, I'm sorry,
And
a
then
24-year-old
what
rookie
Charlotte's
has
going to
no
do is they're
upside in
going
this league.
to just make them play worse because it's just Charlotte.
I don't know. To me, that was insane. That was
I mean, honestly, the 2031 unprotected is a lot less valuable after you trade for Luka
exactly.
Doncic.
That's what I'm saying.
So that is a little bit. But Dalton is a solid player, as
And
evidenced by the fact that he went above Grady Dick in the Rising Stars draft, FYI, which I think is insane, but
that's
also
crazy.
is 100% true. No, Dalton's a fine player. Fans
but
in Los Angeles love Dalton Connect. Now, yeah, like, I mean, if I'm the Raptors right now, I know they're not done. I know they're not done. They have still Davion Mitchell and Chris Boucher on their contract. They got a lot of money potentially signed up with RJ Barrett. What could they possibly, be looking at with Emmanuel quickly? The fit has been a little bit clunky. Could they move off of him very quickly? Again, no pun intended with the quickly thing. I think the quickly thing is, I think he's fine. I feel like I'm getting sick and tired of saying he's fine instead of he's great.
He's
exactly.
33
So
million right now.
Like,
So
well,
that's why
that's
maybe he's not
overpaid.
fine.
He's only played like what, 10 games?
That's what I was gonna say. Like they've been able to see the whole season what they are without. Emmanuel.
That-
They haven't been able really to see that with RJ or other players. I think he's more likely to be the one that goes at this point just because there's a larger sample size of what the team looks like without him.
Oh, there's a big question mark on IQ. I'm not gonna say he's overpaid just yet because he hasn't played a lot and he's probably still dealing with the injuries. But next season, if he has a healthy season and if I don't see no improvements, then I don't know. Then I'm worried for him to
Okay.
be the starting point guard of our future.
The good
So
thing is like this contract doesn't, it doesn't grow. It just stays stable. So 33 million all 5 years. So that's the good part
it's
about
yeah,
this.
32.5 ages like fine wine in the 4th year of that deal, because when you see the contracts that are going to be signed and the extensions that are going to be given 2 years from now, you're going to be signing bench players to like 28 million. I'm promising you, that's the context of this. Like, people always have this really weird reaction when inflation happens. Like, it's like the first time I went to the grocery store after the new prices in Canada came into effect, and I looked at a jar of something that I used to buy for like $3.99, like jam, and it's like $5.99, and I was just like, oof, that's weird. That feels wrong. It takes a while for your eyes to adjust. 32.5 for a super good shooter who works hard, that's very well liked around the league, is not a bad contract. It's not a good contract. It's not a bad contract, though. I said it when it happened. It's not like one of those contracts that has a lot of positive upside, but it's also not a contract that's tied to a player that has a lot of negative downside. So I think the Raptors like to be in that zone where they're like, okay, like, we don't want to take crazy risks here. Bruce Brown, the flexibility, Kelly Olynyk, as we see, these deals are movable. Now, what I would do with this roster from here, I don't know. I think there's one of two ways to go. There's like the play-in way, and then there's the tank way. And I feel like Brandon Ingram coming back off an injury, trying to adjust to playing with Scotty Barnes is not enough to necessarily end your tank, right? But I also think that's worth saying that if you do make the playoffs, what a time to be alive.
Well, we're also still on the bottom on the difficulty, like on Tankathon. We're still 30th.
We're still third. We're top 5.
Next month though is gonna be rough, no?
If this is Brandon Ingram's camp, you'd want him, like, for his sake, you'd want him in the final 20 games to actually play 70 to 80% of what he's capable of, so he can warrant at least $40 million a year. So he is going to ball a little bit harder, and being under Darko and Alex McKechnie, I mean, it's an opportunity for him. See, Masai wants to make sure the players get a benefit out of it at the end too. Stick with us or not, we get a good reputation because we're trying to put back Brandon Ingram in a position that he can get himself in a position to get paid.
Well,
And
like you said
again,
before, I think they had a number before they even traded for him. So I don't know how much he really has to prove himself, and unless he falls off a cliff, and then do you look really good if you traded all that for what? For a couple weeks?
I really like this trade because we have a lot of rookie contracts, right? So I'm a big fan of rookie contracts, and I think you pay players that are usable, obviously, right? But if Jacoby Walters and Grady Dick really pop, then all of a sudden Ingram is a little bit expandable, right? So like, I think this is great in the sense that, like, I think really Jacoby Walters, Grady Dick, and Scotty Barnes in 2-3 years really will be our future, right? But with contracts is you can't pay a guy $30 million and for him to come off the bench, like, period. Like, that's no player wants that, right? So
I
I
mean,
think that
wasn't
we have
Manu Ginobili paid very, very well, and he was
Yeah,
coming off
true.
the bench?
Not to
If it
say.
works, it's worth it, right?
yeah, but Ginobili was one of those players that, to me, wanted to win championships, right? So
And Kickley is wanting to win championships too, but he fancies himself as a starting point guard for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a bridge we cross when we get to it. Right now, you don't have the sufficient. You don't have, like, the Brandon Ingram stuff. Like, this could be a rehab pump and dump, right? Our system makes players look better than they really are, which is why I don't think people really realize how bad some of these players would be playing outside our system. Like, if just a heads up to anyone, if you're gonna make something really loud, like turning on a tap or something, just put yourself on mute, please. So I don't think people realize like how, because we just haven't had a player buy into the system who's super talented yet, right? We just haven't seen that here. It's not like we, 1 week we had Chris Paul in his prime, and 1 week we had James Harden, and 1 week we had, no, we've had RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, a disgruntled at the time Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Emmanuel. Like, you just haven't had the level of talent that you would need to test this shit out to see what it actually could do. And I feel like the system facilitates positive offense, positive looks. I think it gets people better looks than they've ever gotten in their lives. I think a player who really wants to buy into the system can be the most efficient they've ever been in their lives. And so with Brandon Ingram, maybe creating a more off-ball role for him next to a Scotty Barnes can create a system where I believe you can turn him into a 60% true shooting player for the first time in his life.
I was more trying to say, like, I agree with you 100%. Like, obviously, I want Brandon Ingram to succeed in Toronto, and I really do think he will. I'm just more saying, like, with Jacoby, Walters, and Grady, like, those are players that you can put on the bench, and they're not going to complain, right? Like, obviously, we want them to grow, but you can't have 6 all-stars on a team without them fighting to be all-star. Well, you could, but
Well,
they're all
luckily for you, you have 0
right?
all-stars. Well, you have 0 all-stars right now, so it doesn't really matter. I just think, like, I think we overstate the value of players based on how they're marketed to us. Emmanuel Quickley was a backup guard in New York. And if push comes to shove and, Grady transcends him, then he will be a backup guard here. Okay. Like, that's just how it is. I don't think that day is coming necessarily. Obviously, you have a bit of a glut right now. You have a log jam, if you will. You didn't get rid of a single wing in this deal, and you just added a wing.
Well, that's the difference,
I mean,
right? Like,
Bruce Brown is not someone that I consider like a part of the core wings. Look at this depth chart and make sense of it. You currently have Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, Jacoby Walter, Ochai Agbaji, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett. I haven't stopped listing wings yet. You also have Jamison Battle. Like, have I missed somebody? Jonathan Mobo.
Yeah, but a couple of those
Jonathan
are like
Mobo.
multi-positional players as well.
Okay,
too,
exactly
right?
the point.
Yeah.
So Vision 6'9" is alive because you now have Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes who can play the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. Multi-positional players are super valuable to this system and how the Raptors want to run offense.
Yeah.
So Brandon Ingram's versatility, both on offense and defense, paired with the versatility you have with Scotty Barnes, is crazy. Like, Scotty likes, I think Scotty works well with size. You need to put size around him. You need to have like good finishers and size. Last year, I mean, people will continuously harp on the fact that like Scotty Barnes had this like really efficient analytic stretch in the first 2-3 months of last year. Yeah, what was different? He was on a big team. He was playing 2. OG was 3. Pascal was 4. Jakob was 5. That's the biggest team he's ever been on, right? Dennis Schroeder was the 1. So that's the biggest team he's ever been on. The minute you made the deal for RJ Barrett, you immediately became small. Quickly, Barrett, Barnes. Now you're small again. You're undersized at every single position. Routinely.
Shorter last year.
We got shorter last year, right? So now you're getting bigger again. You're getting big at the wings, right? And that size creates breakdowns, especially when that size is skilled. Brandon Ingram's size to skill ratio is something that Brian Colangelo used to talk a lot about size to skill ratio. It was one of the biggest ways that he used to measure players. And you probably understand that by the fact that he took, Andrea Bargnani, number 1 in the draft, and signed Hedo Turkoglu. He was a really big fan of big playmakers. I'm a really big fan of big playmakers too. Big playmakers are a big deal to me. And big playmakers are a big deal to everybody because they're the guys who usually go first overall in the draft. AJ DeBonsa, Cooper Flagg, Cade Cunningham. Like, you look through the draft, big playmaker, big playmaker, big playmaker. That's what people want. Brandon Ingram is exactly that. He is a big playmaker and a very good one at that. So I wonder if Darko can unlock this. And oh, by the way, RJ Barrett is turning into a big playmaker too. You're creating a farm system like with really, really good players. Like I just think if you can do the same thing with BI that you did with RJ Barrett, you will have an all-star.
Mhm.
Oh, and don't forget, he was a second overall pick. Like that's
Nobody's
the level.
forgetting that. Yeah.
We're getting to the point too where like we can actually start matching up against the lineups that we're playing against. We actually have depth now where we can get some
Yeah.
different looks rather than just throwing out like the best people we have. You know, a smaller lineup, we still got IQ. A bigger lineup, we can go Scotty at the point guard. Like we're actually for the first time in a while, we have actual options to match the teams we're playing against in their lineups.
Facts.
And we get
Absolutely.
Grady out of the starting lineup, not as a punishment. It's just because it's a fact that his body's still not NBA developed yet.
Oh, and by the way, you also have like the additional benefit of having players having to guard Brandon Ingram every night in practice. The
Right.
Raptors practice a lot. So now Jacoby Walter and Grady Dick have to guard Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram in practice. They're going to die. Every day they're going to die. Okay? It's going to be hard and you're going to get better. You know, like, look, on the one hand, I understand people saying, why do we have to do this? We could have lived without it, et cetera, et cetera. You need to take risks sometimes in life. Calculated risks are best. Sufficiently, good risks with limited downside are best. Is there a downside risk on this? Of course, there's a downside risk on pretty much everything that you do of any consequence in life, right? But there's like minimal downside risk. What's the downside risk? He doesn't want to be here. It's whatever. I think the risk locks in as great when you sign that contract. That's when the risk really locks in. So I will reserve my full opinion about that for when he signs that contract. Now, I don't believe that there is a competing offer in the world for Brandon Ingram at $50 million. I don't think there's a team stupid enough to give him $50 million. So I hope it's not us. But 38 to 40 for 3 years, I could see the Raptors doing that. I could see the Raptors doing 120 for 3 years. I could see the Raptors doing that.
And you got to look at role too. Like we're one of the few teams that's actually going to give him an option to stay as a top option on the team. You know, what are you going to do? Go to Miami, play behind Bam and Hero, go to some trash team where you can be the number one option, but you're going to do nothing. Like I think his role in Toronto fits as well because he's not going to be bumped down to like a fourth option. But even though I don't even think we really have options because we don't really play too much of a half-court offense. It's kind of like offense by committee. But still, like he's not going to have a reduced role where some of the teams that might have been going after him in free agency could say, yeah, you can come here, but you're going to be the fourth option behind Booker and KD or whatever team would want him, right? Or contender at least.
Mm-hmm. I think, okay, so I guess the question that I would have for y'all is, can Brandon Ingram be the second best player on a championship team?
Yes.
For me, it's yes,
If he improves, then I don't see why not.
It's possible.
I think it depends on defensive buy-in, but yes.
Okay,
I'm mainly worried about him on defense. I don't
They fit together. That's all that matters,
Safe
right?
bet
It's not
he's a third
necessarily
best.
just skill. If he works perfectly with Scotty and the pieces just connect, this is different than RJ being a second option. It just comes down to chemistry and how do these players work together. And I just think we got a nice mix now.
Okay, so here's my follow-up question for you. Can RJ Barrett be a third option on a championship team?
I'm high on RJ. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the only question right now is, can Scotty Barnes be a first option on a championship team? And I think if he can grow into that, then what he has is a completely perfect tool chest for him to really thrive, right? So that's a really big question, and he's going to have to work very, very hard. But I do think that great players push great players. You know what I mean? I think being around Pascal Siakam was good for Scotty. I think it's good to be around an all-star or one-time all-star like Fred. It's good to be around players who are good because you can't feel yourself too much. You know, you don't just want to be like the lone great player on your team.
Right.
You want to have other great players because great, they say iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? There's a natural competitiveness that comes into you when you're playing against this guy and he's giving you buckets in practice, right? And no disrespect to Jonathan Mobo and Jameson Battle, it's great, but sometimes you need that like top dog type of guy to come in. So now you got RJ and you got IQ and you got BI here, and Scotty's like, it kind of changes your perspective of yourself a little bit too. Like I'm the number one option, and my number two option is an all-star, and my number three option is a former Gatorade National Player of the Year, and my backup is another Gatorade National Player of the Year. Like this is what I'm feeling myself as. It adds a little bit of pressure to you. I was thinking back on that, interview with Scotty's trainer and Brian Macon. Shout outs to BMAC, and he said, sometimes it's like when you got to remind people like this is who you are. You know what I mean? Like it's in how you lace your shoes. It's in how you walk. Like this is who you are. And I think this is a reminder to Scotty Barnes that this is who we think you are. We think you are a championship number one, and we're going to give you the pieces, a number two, and a number three, and a number four, which is IQ, RJ, BI. I'm going to give you a solid number five in Yak, right? And now you got no excuses. No excuses.
I think this will kind of like give Scotty a bit of a break as well from these fans who just assume that a number one option means you have to go out there and get 35, 40 points a night. I think he's a good complementary player as well, where maybe because he's a bucket getter, this might ease a little bit of that, where Scotty can still dominate a game where he's killing it on defense and he might only get 15 points. And anyone who knows basketball knows that he's the best player on the court. But because he didn't score 30, you got the casuals saying that's not a number one option. Well, Ingram and his ability to score might calm that section of the fan base down a little bit,
Oh, for sure.
Dude,
I think it'll make it worse. People are going to start complaining, oh, who's better, Ingram or Barnes, instead of RJ now.
That is 100% going to happen.
Yeah.
It's already happening with RJ, so I mean, it's going to get worse with Ingram.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're doomed as a fan base. Is that just going to happen forever? Like, are we ever going to be able to just have
until Scotty gets traded? Yes, I think so.
Oh,
it's just sad.
Brutal.
It's just sad
reality. If he can just shoot the three consistently, I think the issues stop.
I don't know, man. I think he's still got the Fred fans who are going to be hurt forever, and they're just refuse to just really like Scotty because of that little saga there, man.
Which saga?
Just like the Fred and Pascal, the way it kind of ended there. I think there's just a section of the fan base who, regardless, like Scotty could move mountains and it won't matter because there's a bitter part of the fan base who just looks at that situation differently. So I don't know. I don't think just
Scotty was a great teammate to those guys. He didn't ask for them to be moved.
Right.
He didn't pull some LeBron James type of power move and say, get them out of here. And he was genuinely upset when Siakam was traded. So, you
just got a large portion of the fan base who thinks that it was like they got moved because they had to hand the keys to Scotty, which I guess to a degree is kind of true, but not because of Scotty. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, what would they prefer? Just mediocrity for another 5 years?
Buddy,
and then
if you go back to Facebook a couple years ago and read the Toronto Raptors group, then yeah, that a lot of them would have preferred mediocrity.
Which Toronto Raptor group were you a part of?
The one with you.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Remember when Fred's cousins and friends were messaging us and going crazy?
Oh shit! I didn't even realize it was Sean who was talking. My bad. Yeah. I got you. Yes.
But, oh wow, you were in on that too. That was crazy.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Yes, that was fun. No, I mean, look, I think people need to understand that Scotty is going to, at least in the Raptors' minds, be ready to lead a team into a deep playoff run very soon. And when he gets there, he's going to be facing off against teams with multiple all-stars and multiple weapons. And if you see how hard it is to stop a Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jared Allen team, it's because you can't stop three people at once. So you have to always give up something. And that's how basketball works. That's how basketball always works. Tonight, you wanted to stop John Morant, Jaren Jackson got free. You wanted to stop Jaren Jackson, John Morant got free. You wanted to stop them both, you got a corner shooter open. That's how it works. Grady Dick is a really good young player. Jacoby Walters is a really good young player. These guys are not commanding the attention of a Brandon Ingram. They are not anywhere near the level of Brandon Ingram. The level of talent that you have just upgraded for is a substantial one. He's the type of player that commands double teams.
Yeah,
consistently commands double teams. There's not a single player on your team other than Scotty Barnes who commands double teams right now. The number one thing that I think you need to really sustain an offense is multiple options that command double teams. Every good team in the entire league has two guys who command double teams. The ones who don't aren't good teams. De'Aaron Fox and previously DeMar DeRozan, plus they had DeMontis Sabonis. Those are three players who can all command double teams. So how am I supposed to compare Keegan Murray to Grady Dick when Grady Dick is playing single coverage and Keegan Murray's wide open because DeMar DeRozan draws double teams at the post? Like, again, we've kind of gone through this, thing before with, I think the closest comparison to people who maybe aren't very familiar with Brandon Ingram's game, taller DeMar DeRozan is probably a pretty good comparison. Who gets to the line a little bit less right now?
Less foot on the line from Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
One other thing. I know you were saying like Brandon Ingram started tailing off from 2022, right? That's when CJ McCollum got into town. So I feel like, the whole like dynamic changed a lot ever since that happened. And like Brandon Ingram was playing next to basically two guys that were either injury prone or, sharing the rock a lot more. So I feel like it's just a bad system he was part of. I don't think he was leveraged well in the Pelicans.
Nobody has been leveraged overly well. I mean, if you look at Jordan Hawkins, a lot of success early. This year, a little bit of stagnation, right? If you look at Zion, things have always been wrong with him. Not at any point prior to the Pelicans. Even Anthony Davis, right? Things were always wrong with Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins. It's just been something that's like a curse with that organization, right? But again, if you're just talking about talent, you're looking at basketball talent with your eye test. I'm not talking analytics. I'm not talking, EPM and box plus minus. I'm just saying watch the guy hoop.
Yeah. He's like a broke man's Kevin Durant.
That's who he originally was supposed to be, right? Yeah, Kevin Durant.
But I
Who
think
knows? We turned him into him.
But I mean, that potential, you got to look at how he's walking into a system where Darko Rajakovic is talking about improving Chris Boucher every day. This is a 27-year-old who has not played a ton of professional basketball, right? So, again, if you believe in the wear and tear element of, how you view this, he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body. He's been injury prone, but maybe you can fix that. Maybe McKechnie can fix that a little bit. Maybe, a better plan can fix that. Maybe he's one of those players where, the first half of his 20s is going to be full of injuries and the second half is not going to be as full of injuries. I'm not betting on that, of course. But right now, I think your number one goal right now should be to develop Brandon Ingram. And I know it sounds stupid, but that's how I'm choosing to think right now because of how Darko and Jama think and how Evo thinks is you need to develop this guy into the type of player, in my opinion, who can be there's a keep Darko Rajakovic is on. Please don't be a troll. What's up? Gone. Okay. That was weird. Yeah. So what I'm saying is you need to develop him. Consider him just like Chris Boucher, but like 1,000 times better. And you need to work with him every single day, improve his shot just like he did with Ochai Agbaji. Improve his shot diet. Figure out those rim finishes. I have seen Darko Rajakovic make every single player better. If you make Brandon Ingram better, you get an all-star. So you just traded for an all-star and you traded an Indiana first-round pick for it. And he's 27. And unlike Pascal Siakam, where, yes, he's super expensive, but the window shrinks into regression on the back end of that deal, right? Now everyone's, victory lapping on Pascal Siakam. I can't believe they got a second option, the best player, he's an all-star again. Okay, cool. But that deal is 5 years, right? Am I mistaken? Pascal's deal is 5 years. That runs through his 35th birthday.
I think so.
We'll see. He looks great at 30, 31. Let's see what he looks like at 33. I feel very strongly that the best years of a player's life are usually 25 to 32. Somewhere in there. I am.
There's
Pardon?
exceptions though. There's all exceptions, you know.
There's
like-
tons of exceptions. Vince Carter's an exception. The best years of his life were prior to 25. But usually I find, we got Lane. What's going on, man? What's good, Lane? Talk
How
to
are you
me.
doing, sir? OH.
IO, what's up?
Dude, I am.
No, wait. Do that again.
OH.
BI.
I am ecstatic right now. I'm so ecstatic.
Talk to me, man. Feed me. Feed us all our 1 a.m. cappuccino espresso. Give me. I had a feeling the minute this deal dropped, I was thinking of the people that I know that would be like, they'd be really happy about this. I was thinking Scotty's going to be really happy about this. I was thinking, there's a few people in and around the Raptors that I know that are going to be really happy about this. And I thought of you. I was like, I think Lane's going to be happy about this. Why are you happy about this?
I am so happy about this because in every single sports league across the world, over every single age, what do you want to do? You want to bring talent. You want to have talent, right? Not only do now you have talent, but you are extremely flexible with your talent, right? To where, guess what? 2 years from now, or next year maybe, RJ, IQ, BI, whatever one isn't fitting in, now you have flexibility with that talent to move it and move those pieces and see what it can be. I saw somewhere on social media, someone said this could be the new Rudy Gay. I don't think so. This is not that. This is not that at all.
Did he leave?
I think he went out. This is our show now, boys.
All right. Hostile takeover.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, Rob, we can't hear you.
Rob, we can't hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I was trying to turn
Yeah.
off my cam, but apparently I turned off my microphone as well. Hang on 1 second. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's what I was aiming for. Okay, let's make this bigger. Lane, get your takeoff. I'm this is not a hostile takeover. This is me taking a 2-minute break. But yes, I'm gonna keep listening. But let us know why you like this move.
I like this move a lot because, like I said, in every sports league in the world, you want to have talent. It doesn't matter what age, what sport, whatever, whatnot. You want to collect talent, right? That's what the Raptors just did here. They collected talent. Yes, this is PENSARE basketball. Perfect. But they collected talent. And now you become so flexible across the board with that talent and what you can do with that talent. A year from now, 2 years from now, you can move off of BI, you can move off of RJ, you can move off of IQ, whoever, to fit around Scotty. I think I saw somewhere on social media, and I don't know if you guys saw too, but someone said that this could be like the new Rudy Gay, quote unquote. I don't think this is that at all. Rudy Gay aspires to be Brandon Ingram. Like, we're talking about a 6'8" forward here who was an all-star at what, 22, 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
What's scary?
That was me that said that, but it just appears that way. But I think Brandon Ingram is cut from a different cloth for sure.
He's cut from a different cloth for sure. He doesn't need to be ISO to get his buckets, right? Yeah. He doesn't need to be a heliocentric piece. He can play around talent. Like, when Zion comes in the lineup, he flexes, but when you need a bucket from BI, he can get you a bucket. How RJ can give you a bucket with rim pressure, BI can give you a bucket in the mid-range or a step back three.
That's it.
Right? Like, that's exactly what I'm thinking here. And it's just another outlet for Scotty. Like, you just threw him a 41 to 42% three-point shooter. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is scary. Like, we have RJ Barrett, who's quote unquote playing power forward, right? For our team right now, right? And like, so now we have 3 players that are either going to trap a big down low because they're too scared that they're going to get an easy dunk, or they're going to trap a guard down low. But all 3 of them can play, like, as long as all 3 of them sprint the court, like, that's an easy bucket. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what. Like,
and think about how much the lineup changes. Think about how much the lineup changes. RJ at the 3, you felt small. RJ at the 2, you feel big. Do you
Yeah,
not?
I always thought RJ was a 2. When he came to Toronto, I'm like, he's a 2. And then he started playing quote unquote the 4, and I'm kind of like, yeah, you know what? I could see like promise in that, right? But now we have 3 players. Well, Scotty can play any position, but we have 2 players in RJ and Brandon Ingram that can play 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. Like, you're matching up against us now. We're not matching up against you. And then even on defense, like, yeah, okay, Barrett might need some help, right? But having said that, you have players that can come over and help now, right?
Well, yeah,
So
you just got
You-
more
I like,
length too. You got a
You're
big
I'm
guy.
also
actually
yeah,
worried about Barrett on defense. Sorry,
you're also,
Ingram on defense more because of how we play.
exactly. You're not throwing Grady into the fire like you did before.
yeah. Well,
Right.
it's even like Ingram. I don't love Ingram like one-on-one, but I really like Ingram as a help defender, right? Like, now we have players that, like, Scotty Barnes to me is he's a good one-on-one defender, but he's a great help defender. He knows when to come over and double team. He knows when not to. You know what I mean? Like, with Ingram now, you have that length and that athleticism that, like, when a guard's getting trapped down low, he'll just come over and try to get the block, or at least show the other player that, yeah, I have length and athleticism, right?
Well, he just takes up more room in the lanes too. You know, that's really what
Yeah.
it comes down to.
He's definitely competent. What worries me is, especially come playoff time when things become so much more physical, I really don't trust him to hold up. I feel like something is gonna just break.
But
He's
you
not
know what?
gonna be able to do it
The way
all.
I look at it, one of our deficiencies for a long time now is having a player who could really create in the half court offense, which is kind of what happens when you do get to the playoffs. It slows down.
exactly. Yeah, game slows
You
And we
down.
haven't
Right?
finally
It
have
becomes
a
half
guy
court.
now who
you
can.
haven't had that. You haven't had a guy who can create for himself at this level since Kawhi Leonard.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
And like, yeah, he might have some
And you
deficiencies in the
just gave him
playoffs, but like
Scotty
if you
Barnes.
get to the playoffs, you do need. I'm not saying he would be the number 1 scorer, but you do need that guy who can, when the defense tightens up, you need some. Like, RJ's not going to get those lanes all the time to just cut. So you got a guy who can run ISO if we need him to, and
And
a
we
lot of times in the playoffs, you do need that.
and we have that relief valve with Grady and with Walter or Jacoby Walters. Like, you know what I mean? I know they're still young, but we have that relief valve where it's kind of like, yeah, okay, they can drive one-on-one and then they can get the kick out. And nobody is
Do
selfish
you
on this
remember
team.
how bad our 3-point shooting was like 2 years ago?
It's
Like,
night
look
and day.
at it now. I'm not saying we're like crazy, but like,
It's
remember
night and
what
day.
it was a couple years. It was terrible.
Well, other
Basically
than
an awesome
Fred, who did we have, right? Like, it was just Fred hoisting up threes.
No one.
We
Mhm.
had a roster
Here's
back
the
then
thing
to
too.
now.
Here's the thing too, man. Over the win streak, what was our best defense? Our best defense was our offense. Our defense was so good because our offense was putting the ball in the hoop and getting back and not having to fight against a transition offense every other freaking possession. Right? We put the ball in the hoop. What is Brandon Ingram going to do? He's going to put the ball in the freaking hoop. You know, we're not going to have to be fighting for our lives to run back in transition like we have been. And then we get beat on transition defense. I don't know how many times this year I've got on Twitter, right? And all I see is Rob posting 3 different clips of the Raptors getting beat back on transition defense. You know,
Off of the turnover. It happens so often.
That hasn't happened lately with that win streak. And I didn't get to watch tonight because I had a work conference. But like, I don't know if that happened tonight or not.
It happened a lot in the third.
Gotcha. I mean, it's going to be so night and day with the ball going in the hoop and the ball not going in the hoop. People finishing off Scotty's nice passes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Well,
That's what it's all
it's
about.
nice for a team to see the ball go in, right? Like, it's like if you see your teammate make a shot, like, you're more inclined to make that next shot, right? Because now you're like trying to keep up with your team, right?
Well, now you're kicking it out to Ingram instead of Bruce Brown, or like, and people say, whether you believe it or not, people say most teams that win a trade are the teams that get the best player, and we got the best player in this trade. So whether that works out long term, that's
Are you sure we got the best player in this trade?
Rob is a huge Kelly O guy.
Oh god,
big time Kelly Olynyk fan, bro.
I wish he would have worked out here, man.
We need a stretch, man. That's it. We need it. That's
You
not
didn't
saying
just get
that's
the
like a
best. You didn't
splash
just get the best
championship
player
piece,
in this
but
deal, bro. You got the youngest player in this deal too.
I
That's
honestly
crazy.
like
I didn't
Olynyk
know he's
getting
older
moved
than.
because it
I
lets
like
Davion.
Josh
Kelly, but his
make
arms
the
were too
move.
damn short in the paint. Man, it's just I was watching. I think I was watching. Oh yeah, it was that Knicks game. I mean, it wasn't all his fault, but it just felt like when he wanted him to be the primary rebounder against
Mhm.
Cat, I was like, no, not a chance. Like it's just his arm. Kelly's arms maybe are long, but I mean, to Cat, he looked like a T-Rex.
The last 2 games, Kelly had to deal with Cat and
JJJ.
Triple J. Like it's crazy how much work. And Zach Edey too on the back half.
Oh yeah, Edie. Holy
But
Zach
shit.
killed us. Oh my goodness.
In fairness, Kelly was never supposed to play the 5. Okay, Kelly was a 4.
yeah,
So.
Agreed.
so the question
Agreed.
is, what do you think happens tomorrow? Because Rob, you said we're not done, or you don't think we're done.
We're not done.
we
I
need a
really-
stretch big.
We
Man.
need to get rid of Davion, though he is a good.
Any
He's a good
guesses
human
though, or
being.
like what do you think they're gonna target?
Who do we
or-
get?
I want Boucher to remain a Raptor so bad. So bad.
If
You
Boucher
think
gets
Boucher's
us a
our
That'd
first,
be nice.
we're hanging his jersey like Vince Carter, and we're even gonna have him come out there in a microphone speaking bilingual, telling us thank you, and we're gonna hang up a Trey Boucher like the
If they
medieval
get rid
Trey
of Boucher, we'll never have to hear Jack Armstrong say bonjour again.
I love that bilingual
He got us
comment,
moving.
man. Like I can't help but laugh. Like bilingual.
People on Reddit were exploding when they didn't hear it. Thought Boucher got traded.
Yeah,
I think Boucher's. I think these are pieces, right? Like I'm not. Like it's even Mitchell. Like I think Mitchell is a piece. Boucher's a piece, right? But
Yeah.
now we got like most of the circle filled up. You know what I mean? Like now we got like 60% of the circle or 80% of the circle filled up, right? So it's kind of like now those pieces can fit in, right? So
Yeah,
Mhm.
they become like back of the bench pieces. That
We on cue. We welcome trade Boucher, keep Darko. Why do you want to trade Chris Boucher? Let us know. You will not get jumped. Don't worry. Just turn on your mic and spit. He just left. He's like,
I mean,
it's
I'm
too
not gonna
crazy.
lose.
I'm
sleep
about
if
to
we do
get.
Changed his
trade
name.
Boucher, but
I
When
would
we trade Boucher and Davion and all these guys, though, what are we trading them for at this point?
Julian Strother. That's the only acceptable thing for Boucher is Julian Strother. That's
That's
it.
not bad if we get
Playing-
Strother.
got to worry about disrupting the chemistry too much. You know, like I know they're not long term, but if it's working now and we're actually trying to go for the play in, do you really want to take Davion and Boucher out of the mix, considering the team's kind of gelling right now?
If we make play, and I think
I saw
Boucher stays,
Boucher
I'm
tonight,
comfortable with
and
Davion
whenever
leaving,
he
though.
dribbles, and whenever Davion dribbles, it kind of sucks the life out of me.
I'm not a fan of either, but I'm a fan of chemistry and like.
I think they've been playing good basketball the last few weeks, though. Don't you
Let-
think?
I would be surprised if this projected starting lineup for next year plays more than 5 games on the court together the rest of this year. Like this is an obvious, like trading for BI is an obvious tanking move in my opinion. It is an obvious tanking move. You trade depth and Bruce Brown and Olynyk, right? And you're banking towards next year 100%. You're going to add a top 7 pick in the draft and you're going to run it with this lineup next year and do your best to be a top 6 team in the East, which I truly believe they can be.
I think it's how much do you think
I think that
Ingram's
was
going to play, right?
That's it too, right? And then you bring back IQ, and all of a sudden now you got 2 players in the starting lineup that are pretty much new to the system. Not new to the system, but haven't really been playing, right? So even if you got more talent there, that's kind of like starting a new season, you know? If you put 2 of them in there, there's no guarantee that just because they have the talent, that's going to continue to get us wins. There's only so many games left, so I mean, who knows?
I think with Darko, we're gonna see great flashes with Ingram. I think like whether he plays 20 games, 30 games, like I think 30 would be a little optimistic, but like if he plays 20 games, he's gonna show off Ingram, right? Like so.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that it's just gonna click right away, right? Like look how long it took for this team to get healthy and start to click. So to just assume that you're gonna throw them in there and it's gonna automatically be cohesive. In a perfect world, sure, but there could be growing pains that way, just getting used to each other on the floor, right? That could cost us some wins right there. And like he said, it could be a long-term move and keep the tank going, to be honest. even if you're putting more talent out there, you're not necessarily guaranteeing that they're going to mesh as well as this unit's meshing right now, especially if you take Davion and Chris out of the mix too, right? And then add 2 more people from wherever. Like, that's hoping a lot that you can bring 4 or 5 new faces, and it's just going to keep rolling like we're rolling right now, right?
But would you rather see how much talent goes? Like, you know what I mean? Like, as far as I respect, like, honestly, even Brown, like, he came in the last, I don't know how many games, but like 7 games, like, he's played really, really well. You know what I mean? Like, no, like, I thought there could be a long-term plan with him in the lineup, right? But having said that, like, we're talking about Brandon Ingram. We're talking about a 22-point scorer on a down year, right? So that's not a 12-point a game scorer.
Right.
Yeah, I think he's somewhat misunderstood as just a scorer, right? He is a playmaker, and he is a player who makes really good decisions with the basketball. He's very talented at getting his own shot and really adept at creating for others. And I just don't think people are giving adequate attention to the fact that the East is weaker than the West.
Mhm.
The Raptors have some incredibly slim competition coming up. So the fact is that Brandon Ingram is going to have a chance, when he plays, if he plays for the Raptors. I don't know how much he's going to play, to exhibit himself. And I think he's going to have some pieces around in this offense to really work off of. I can't remember the last time he's had a big quite at the level of a Jakob Poeltl. That's worth saying. Jonas Valanciunas saying exactly Jakob Poeltl in terms of, as a playmaker. So I think that that's helpful as well, right? I talked about it. Like, he can run the pick and roll very effectively, very efficiently. This is not someone that you need to teach how to play basketball. This is someone you need to tweak the finishes. You need to tweak the shot diet and the shot profile a little bit more. You need to get, I think you just need to refine everything up. You need to tighten his game up a little bit. And again, if the Raptors do tank right now, you're going into next season with so much talent. I'm talking just talent. I don't know how that talent materializes, but just from a talent perspective, if you get a top 5 pick to pair with Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, my God, there is some legitimate optimism here that you could be like a 45 to 48 win team next year and be really scary in the playoffs.
And we
Do
might
we
be able
still
to.
go best player available if we got a top 5, or go for fit?
Bro, I would go best player available if you got top 12. I'd go best player available if you got 18th. I'm going best player available every time because players can be moved. Brandon Ingram, I will remind you, just to people, because I feel like sometimes, and it's not trying to be rude, I feel like because I am on the panel and because I do generally just obsess over the entire league, I'm always listening to other teams' broadcasts, other teams' channels. I'll sit in for 2 hours on a Knicks podcast about only the Knicks, not just the Raptors, because I always want to understand how do people actually feel about their team, what's going on. I understand very much about how Pelicans fans feel about Brandon Ingram, how Lakers fans felt about Brandon Ingram. The talent has always been apparent. He was the centerpiece. To give context on who Brandon Ingram actually is, he was the centerpiece of a deal for Anthony fucking Davis in his prime.
Yep.
Okay. He was also, FYI, the holdup on a deal for Kevin Durant in his prime. He was what was held off the table for Kevin Durant in his prime. So that's where he is in theory. Now, where is he in reality right now? He's a couple years removed from the optimism around him. He's 3 years removed from his best season as a player. And I do think there's another step that he can take if he wants to take it. I think it comes down to Brandon Ingram. Does he want to win in Toronto? Does he want to get better? Does he want to fit into this system? Does he want to be here long term? All of these things, right? But yes, you definitively got a player that by most people's estimates was a top 20 player a couple of years ago. Top 20, top 25.
Brendan
Great to
made
just rejuvenate him too. You don't know, he could have New Orleans is kind of trash, right? So sometimes all it takes is a change of scenery for a player to get some life back in them and just start heading straight back up. I don't know. I don't think he's lost it. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic, but there's not too much to be happy about in New Orleans right now. I know a couple years ago, excuse me. I know a couple years ago I was picking them as one of my dark horses because I just thought there was so much potential in that team when if Zion would have been healthy and Ingram. So yeah, it might have fallen off a little bit in the last couple of years, but a trade to a young team that's growing where he can be a bit of a leader as well. I don't know. I still think the sky could be the limit personally, but maybe I'm being a little too optimistic.
Personally, I think Brandon Ingram's a baller. Like he's going to make the right pass. Like Rob made the mention, like comparing him to DeRozan. I don't think he's DeRozan on the Raptors. I think he's DeRozan after Pop. You know what I mean? I think he's a player that will make the right pass. Like, you know what I mean? Like Scotty Barnes might get a little slack from the league and saying, "Oh, he's not this, he's not that." Well, Scotty Barnes is a great passer. You know what I mean? He's going to make the right pass. Whereas I think with like Ingram, he's going to make the right pass. I think with RJ, I think RJ's learning that it's not just about scoring; it's about getting other players involved, right? So I think we got a really good core here.
Yeah, I really
think
like
Ingram. Oh,
I think the
yeah,
biggest
that's well.
is he's already going to have his contract come next year when the season starts. So it's not like he's gunning for anything, right? He's not going to be a Fred VanVleet type of situation. He's not going to be a Siakam type of situation. He is going to have his money already. So he's not going to go out there and try to chuck 20 shots a game to try to put up numbers to prove himself come the end of the year.
And one other thing, like this with this year ending and Brandon Ingram coming back, basically, Darko will have like 10 to 20 games to experiment with him, like all the development stuff that he usually does with all the new guys, right? So I think there's a positive to come up with next season while we're tanking this year for like the top 5 pick or whatever we get.
I think also another
5 to 40 make you look at any of our other contracts differently.
Pardon?
Does him, if he signs like a 35 to 40 million, does that make you look at any of the contracts we have right now differently?
If he signs 35 million, I would build a statue of Masai Ujiri.
I don't see him getting less than 50.
He's not signing for 35 million. In
Maybe
today's
not.
NBA,
what's like the most he can get?
50.
Yeah,
50 a year?
Mm-hmm.
He's
That's
that good.
crazy. Wow.
What do our
Are we going to
financials
be
look like after we pay Ochai though?
Yeah, are we
That's
gonna
what
be
I'm thinking. Like, where are we getting all this money is my question. How much room do we have left?
Ellen Rogers charges a lot.
Yeah,
I'll
you're
tell you.
telling me.
Yeah, we're paying.
we really would.
Our phone bills are paying for the contracts.
I'm just wondering about cap space when we do eventually have to start renewing some of the younger guys. That's just what I'm curious about.
But that's the whole thing. Like we have years before we have to renew the younger guys, right? So like this is kind of like, let's go put something on the floor. We're gonna pay them, but we have like how many? Like there's 5 players to me on the Raptors that deserve a good extension, right? But why not pay Ingram now and wait to see what he does? You know what I mean? Like why not? Like
I agree. You have to after this
like
trade. You have
we
to.
have
There's
so
no way
many
you can trade
good
that and
rookie
not.
contracts.
Don't we have to pay Ochai this summer as well? Or am I getting that mixed up?
You're getting it mixed up. It's next summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But you I think he's extension eligible this summer.
Wait,
I would
do you want to extend Ingram before the offseason? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think Ochai's option got picked up. That was for next year.
Right. So I mean, it's very helpful to have all these rookies because they're cheap. And if you develop them very quickly, then they're super cheap because they're providing you a lot of positive value. Now, again, long term, Scotty plus IQ plus RJ plus, Brandon Ingram is a very, very expensive core to not be a championship contender. It's very expensive.
Isn't up after next year? So what do you do about that? Was he 2 or 3 years?
First of all, like RJ's deal is up. He has 1 more year left on his contract after this year, so he's an expiring next year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Bad.
And pardon? Yeah, I think he is. He could have 2 more years.
Oh, he's got 2 more years after this year's done.
Okay, my bad. So 2 more years. That's a reasonable contract. In today's NBA, RJ's a bargain at 25, 27, 28 million, whatever he's at. So if the Raptors, get this lottery pick top 5, and if they hit on that lottery pick, that player is super cheap for 4 years as well. That 4 years would concurrently run with Brandon Ingram's contract. And so even if you do overpay BI just a little bit, you would assume that you would be getting positive value on Brandon Ingram plus that top 5 pick. That's one way to look at it.
Right.
So here's what I'm thinking right now.
And not just that. Oh, sorry, you go. My bad.
You just got rid of $35 million in contracts with this trade.
Yeah.
Right. You're bringing in BI.
Yeah.
He's going to need at least 45 to 50. Davion's deal for next year is a team option worth $8 million, almost $9 million. I think the writing's on the wall.
I think you can recoup some picks back, by the way. Just an FYI. I know you gave up 2 picks in this deal. I think you can get 2 back tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
The reason I say that is because exactly who is speaking right now? Sorry, I have no idea because y'all don't have your cameras on. I have no idea who's speaking. Who was speaking? Who just mentioned that? Was that Steve-O?
About what?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't me.
No, was it Lane who said that? Like
About the contracts?
About the contracts?
Yeah.
My bad. Okay, sorry. So, Lane, good point. The Raptors' flexibility at this deadline as facilitator extended from largely their ability to have movable expiring picks, expiring contracts. They still have 2 of them, Davion and Chris Boucher.
Yep.
Davion Mitchell's extension is done now. Like if he was hoping for 10 million, that 10 million does not exist on this roster right now. It just doesn't.
I don't think Davion.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't think Davion's worth $8 million. To be honest, like I like Davion.
I don't think he's worth $5 million. But
that's my whole thing, right? So even if we do, you know what, see how this season ends with him on the roster and don't trade him for a pick, I think if you could sign him for around 4, you know what I mean, like the minimum or like slightly above the minimum, I think he's a great player to have on your team.
Right.
I like him for Sheed to help him develop. I think having him just in practice, like you see Shed, exploding. You see that burst. I think he's learning, to do that and just blow by a lot by fighting against Mitchell.
Shed was a big fan of Mitchell, right? So like that's a good combination to help Shed grow, right? So
is Davion restricted or unrestricted?
Restricted. He's restricted. Okay. So I mean, yes. You'll have a right to match anything if you so choose to go down that road with Davion. What I'm trying to say is when you add in 2 rookies next year, right? In addition to the fact that Jacoby's cheap for the next 3 years, very cheap, actually. He's making like $2-3 million. Yes. You have so many cheap assets right now that where is complicated is the minute Brandon Ingram comes in, there's a few players who are going to get priced out of their extensions. Players like Chris Boucher. $10 million for Chris Boucher plus $50 million for Brandon Ingram. If you start looking at the cap sheet, now plus Scotty's extension kicks in, that money is not there for Chris Boucher anymore. Which is why I say there's actually a deal that needs to be made right now. And that deal, in my opinion, is going to be to help a team either facilitate a trade tomorrow, provided there's one more trade, that needs to get done, a big deal that, needs a facilitator, or to help a team that's currently in the apron take on a serviceable contract for maybe a little bit more money on the expiring. So I'm looking around right now at teams that maybe have one longer-term contract, and a short-term contract, or teams that have an apron restriction that they want to get under so they can aggregate salaries. And I'm looking to help that team in exchange for some draft capital. Ultimately, I'm doing this because I'm going to lose Chris Boucher for nothing in the offseason at this point. I don't feel like it's not that I don't think he's part of the plans or whatever. I just think right now, if you're looking at the writing on the wall, Chris Boucher is an $11 million-ish player, $12 million player, round there. Davion's around 8-9. That's about $20 million in expiring money. And the minute you sign BI to his extension, which will be greater than his current cap figure, you're parking him into money that didn't exist because Bruce Brown was never coming back, ever. So that $23 million plus the $13 million for Kelly or $12 million has basically not impacted your major strategy or strength going into this trade deadline, which was your $10-11 million to play with under the luxury tax. That still exists.
Could you see a world when Boucher signs for 5? Could you see a world like he leaves money on the table to stay with the Raptors?
Yeah, sure. I see it, but I don't see where. Yeah, I could see it.
How would that
I
play
don't know. I
next
think
year,
he started too old, bro. Like he's gonna want his
I-
bag.
I see Masai doing Boucher a favor to put him in a position to go into a competing team that he can contribute. So then, if he makes a positive impact in a playoff team, he's
Mhm.
going to get probably another $11-12 million contract from another team. That's just, Masai doing kind of him a favor. To Boucher a favor.
I actually follow Boucher on Instagram, and I'm like, Boucher's kind of an introvert, right? Like they don't like to leave things that are comfortable to them. You know what I mean? So I'm if he wants to stay here, I think he's going to stay here for less. Like, I don't think he's going to be one of those players that we have to overpay. I'm not doubting that he could probably command $10 million if he keeps up what he did this year. But we got to look at this in like, he is an older player, right? He's not going to come into your lineup and be a star player, right? So he knows he's going to be a role player. So is that a role player on the Nuggets? Yeah, he could do very well there. You know what I mean? But Toronto,
money in his career to leave money on the table and probably his last contract. I don't think he's doing that.
I also don't think he's getting much playing time here next year, especially when we're adding 2 more rookies on top of the 5 what we had this year that are going to only get better.
Yeah,
They're going to
like
eat
they're
up
not going
so
to take
much
a pay
more time.
cut to ride the bench either, right? Like, what's the point?
You know what makes me so excited about tomorrow? We get guaranteed Jamison Battle playing time after tomorrow. I'm giddy.
That being said, what do you guys think a realistic Chris Boucher trade would look like?
Well, I also think the Raptors, it's worth noting, when you trade 2 for 1, you've now created an additional roster spot. I think part of the thinking here is to be able to convert Jamison Battle to a standard contract.
Thank God.
Oh, not
Which
Orlando.
also,
Robinson?
by the way, opens up a 2-way spot for you to use on somebody else, which would be kind of cool. Now, if
Do you
I
think
can
that's
think
Robinson?
Mitchell Robinson?
No, Orlando.
No.
Orlando Robinson. He's already taking up a roster spot. So I mean, he's on a 10-day. So you think like long term for Orlando Robinson?
Remainder of a year.
We got off Kelly.
Yeah, we don't have another center. We kind of have to, unless we trade for one.
Unless we believe in Sean
Orlando. I feel like Orlando Robinson helps winning way too much, personally. So
just start Shamsha every game.
What I would do right now, based on the progression that I've seen from Jamison Battle and Ulrich, is I would convert them both. 100%, I would convert them both to standard contracts. I would sign them in for cheap, 3-year deals, and that way I just have them.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Let's see what they do, right? Yeah.
Like,
How much time would you give to Ulrich right now?
Ulrich,
10 to 12 minutes a game. I mean, do you see my point though? Like, okay, here's a challenge for everybody up here on this little panel that we've assembled, this makeshift, panel that we have here. Name me a team with 3 players above the height of 6'6" that can play make as well right now as RJ, Scotty, and BI.
The Nuggets. Eric Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., and Jokic.
I don't think
Michael Porter Jr.
MPJ.
Michael Porter Jr. is a terrible
playmaker. He's just only a
Orlando Magic,
basically in there.
Harlem Globetrotters.
Okay, wait. Orlando Magic.
Paolo, Franz, and Anthony Black.
Correct. Yes, that's
okay.
one.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
fair.
How tall is Anthony Black?
6'7".
Okay, I thought he was 6'4".
That's one. Is there another one?
They got to have some.
Houston, maybe.
Amen Thompson, and who else? Alfred Şengün's okay. He's a good playmaker, but I don't consider him great.
I mean, they don't have a third one.
I can name you another one, and that would be probably the Sacramento Kings with DeMar DeRozan plus Domantas Sabonis. I mean, they're third. I mean, honestly, they have another big playmaker, but he's not quite 6'6". It's Malik Monk. He's 6'3". He's a really good playmaker. I don't necessarily consider Zach LaVine a great playmaker. He racks up like 3, 4 assists, 5 assists, whatever, by process of offense, but I don't think he's a great playmaker.
Yeah.
I just feel like RJ took a step as a playmaker this year to the point where I see him making passes every single game that are like, wow, great, advanced read, occasionally. Now, I'm saying Scotty's on a different level than these dudes, but BI is not that far behind. He's a very, very good playmaker. And I think RJ is not that far behind that. So I feel like you have 3 very competent decision makers who can execute in the pick and roll with if you can add like a Nick Claxton to this somehow, or Cam Johnson or something like that, you could really, really like start to dream about what is possible with the play-in push. I also feel like Jakob Poeltl is an underrated as hell playmaker. And so, you really got 4. And then, Jonathan Mobo is a pretty damn good decision maker, although I wouldn't quite, like, because of the lack of scoring, I can't put him up on that level. Grady Dick's not a terrible passer.
He's going to keep getting better. I'm so happy that they took his ass out of the fire with this deal. He's going to be able to develop.
I mean, now look at your bench here. I mean, really, like, take a look at your depth chart here. You got Jacoby and Grady coming off the bench, and Ochai. That's your trio coming off the bench.
Ochai
plus Grady plus Jacoby coming off the bench with Mobo,
Shed,
right?
Yep.
Wow.
That's
what a difference. What a difference.
We rate that the 2024 draft, even if those are not the highest talent. Yeah, we did rake a whole bench out of that.
I have a question for you guys, though. Like, where do you see Grady long term? Like, there's reports of him being basically untouchable. I don't think the Raptors see him as somebody who's going to ride the bench for the next 4 or 5 years.
This is where the conversation comes into the fact that you have a collection of talent.
A little bit more muscle. Just 5 more pounds of muscle on Grady Dick with some experience, and then we'll see what his higher value would be, his higher ceiling.
There's still question marks with these players, right? Like, but if they develop the way I think a lot of us want to see them develop, they're going to be really, really good players. But we're not stuck because they're on such low contracts, like for the next 3-4 years, or 3 years, I guess, 2-3 years, if you want to include Grady, that we can afford to pay these players and see what happens, right? So,
yeah, Chris Trees, what's up? Left. Okay.
Is there any worry that when you move some of these players to the bench that they become, not that it stunts their growth, but because I don't know, I felt like when at the start of the year when Grady when everyone was injured and Grady was maybe not like the number one option, but he was getting a lot more looks for him. That was when he was playing his best. Like you look at someone like Gary Trent, who was like, he was terrible when they moved him to the bench. Not that he was good in the starting lineup either, but there was he was better in the starting lineup than when they moved him to the bench, right? So like, what if something like that happens with Grady? I know he's not like a finished product now, but I don't know. That's my worry.
I think Grady like started the season really hot. I think he showed all the Raptors fan base a lot, right? And so now we're really, really high on him. But obviously, like he couldn't keep it up throughout the whole season, which that's no knock on Grady. He just wasn't there yet, right? Mm-hmm. So now we allow him to win.
Yeah, what's going on, Owen?
Hello. Long-time watcher, first-time caller. Crazy, just crazy what's going on right now. Very excited. I can't sleep, so I thought I'd see what the fuss is about.
What the fuss is about is the Raptors got a pretty talented player for not a hell of a lot.
Yeah, I'm blown away, to be honest. It's really exciting. I mean, like, yeah, just the best player in the draft or the trade rather is who won the trade, right?
Most times, yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, underrated comment here. Take it in right now. It's 2 a.m. and we got 738 people in the chat right now.
Like the video.
Yeah, like the video
1,000
because
at
it's only
1.2 as well, right?
it was over 1,000. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
big time deal. I swear to God, if this deal had broken at 7 8 like at 6 p.m. or something, I think we would have gotten like 2,000 people. I feel like a lot of people went to sleep, and people
Yeah.
are
Just
just
took
gonna
a
wake
tough
up.
loss, remember?
I think people are gonna wake up in the middle of the night and be like, "Why the hell do I have 85 texts?" Like I got like 35 text messages in close to a minute, and my first thought was like, "Okay." Like my phone just kept going off, and I was doing the live for the post game, and I was just like, "Why is my?" Because I usually keep my phone behind me just in case it buzzes, and if I feel like 2 3 buzzes, then I check, and it was like buzz
Right.
buzz buzz. I was like, "Bro, like what is behind me right now?"
How
So
does it make you feel knowing that probably 10,000 people thought about you first when the trade happened?
why did they think about me first?
Because you're the guy, bro. What do you mean? You were the first person I thought of. I checked
You're the
as soon
most
as I saw the
in-depth
trade. I
Raptors fan.
checked to see if you were live.
Oh, damn, that's very humbling and very cool. Yeah, I mean,
You're the
I
Raptors
did
guy,
the
bro.
same
Come on.
thing. I did the same thing. I'm like,
You're
yeah,
too humble.
what's Rob's opinion on this, right? Like, I need some honest truth.
I was already here for the post game, so I didn't really have to think. But yeah,
Same.
I was delayed on the post game. I was too busy scrolling my phone looking for the trade that dropped, right? So
yeah. I mean, honestly, when we lost the live streams for a little bit, it kind of hammered home what these live streams mean to me, but also what these live streams mean to y'all. Like we were doing these videos in the premiere thing, and as we were premiering them, people were like, "When are the lives back? When are the lives back?" I was like, "Damn!" Like I didn't realize like the lives were so important to people, but it's great to be able to go live. I could not imagine if YouTube had stopped me from going live on this, I would be so pissed. But I'm glad the live
So would
stream is
we.
back.
Like, bro,
Yeah.
some of us, like, we've been following for years now. This is like a routine for us. Like, I think I'm going on maybe 2 3 years now, and I could say trade deadline is probably the most fun time that I have on this channel. The
Where
last
were
2 or 3
you when
years,
the
probably the
Siakam
most
Hurdle
interesting.
information broke?
I know where I was.
Yeah, I was screaming,
Raptors just
no.
kill.
I thought back on that, and I was like, I screamed, no, fuck no, whatever. And I wish like I had thought about that a little bit more. I would have had a much more memorable moment where I would have just screamed Wemby, and just goes away.
I
Because
remember the
that's how
Thaddeus
it
Young
felt.
trade. Your
Yeah,
reaction to that.
yeah. Ace, what's going on, man?
What's up? What's up?
Are you a Raptors fan or a Pelicans fan?
Oh, huge Raptors, of course.
Okay, cool. I ended up wanting to get some Pelicans fans on here for their reactions. I thought it would be very valuable to our community, so I'm gonna actually farm for that tomorrow. I also messaged Ron to see if they want me on the panel for an hour tomorrow before we do our show, just so we can have a reaction to this. Since I'm the Raptors guy on the panel, it'd be kind of weird for the Raptors to make a big deal and me not be on it, but we'll see
There'll
what
be
comes of
super
that.
chats for sure, at least about it.
When are you going to get one of them on your channel, bro?
We'll see. We'll see. They're saying someone's trying to enter, but the studio's full. Is anyone kind of done for the night?
Yeah, I'm gonna get that. It was nice talking to you guys. All right,
See
have a
ya.
good night. I'm gonna listen.
See ya.
Have
a good night. More action
My brother.
tomorrow.
Yeah, bro.
Okay. Open up some space. All right. So to anyone who is trying to get in, there's one more spot in the studio open. And yeah, like it kind of gives you a little notification when someone's trying to get in. I mean, I would love to have some Pelicans people come on. I was reaching out to one of my friends who is a big time content creator over in that space. I think he's live right now though, so that's tough. Get Swiper in here. Why? That's my only question. Why? I'm a chill on the Swiper swipes. The swipes and the sidebars, because I recently I think he said to us that he is I think he said he's like 33% or 40% Nigerian. That's it. That ends the beef. Cannot hate on a dude who's Nigerian.
It's funny how much you guys like hate each other, but your chemistry because of that is so perfect.
But it's like kayfabe though. Like they're not really. They don't hate each other.
No, hate's a strong word, but it's like your chemistry with him is it's so entertaining.
You think I'm faking it? You think I'm a wrestler? Shut up, man. No. It's legit. Every reaction I have on here is legit. There's nothing for stage. If I genuinely don't like what you're saying, like I'm just like I don't fuck with this. Like I don't like it. Like I
feel
would
like
never.
You're playing a persona on the panel though. Like
I mean, there's an element of that. Yes, there is an element of I'm gonna push a little bit more. I feel a need to balance the show element of it, like to the point where a debate show does not really work if everyone agrees. That's boring. So as the person who's consistently able to think outside the box a little bit on things and is already seen as more of a pariah and an outsider because I'm white on an entirely black show, I feel it is my responsibility to be the villain in certain situations there. So, but that doesn't mean I'm going to just go and say shit that I don't actually believe. Brooke Johans, what's up?
No, it's me. I'm back.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, were you the person who was trying to get in? You couldn't get in?
Yeah, like 30 seconds ago? Yeah, that was me.
Okay, cool.
Any of you guys feel like we need to do a follow-up trade?
We 100% need to do a follow-up trade.
For the backup big, backup point guard? For sure.
What do you expect to see?
Colin
Sexton
type. We need a Colin Sexton type punching guard off the bench, and a point guard.
Colin Sexton type. I think we need defense.
Yeah,
I think one role player and one pick, and then
we need a stretch big, man.
We need a backup big,
For sure.
We've needed a stretch big for years. That's it. That's the most important.
We kind of got in Kelly.
He's gone now. What about Shalmache playing?
Shamsha is not a stretch big per se,
but he can protect the rim.
He's big than Yak.
I don't mean a perfect fit, but like just for development's sakes, like if we're developing at the end of this year anyways, right? Let's give him some time.
Give me Miles Turner. I don't care.
We just ran a poll.
Miles Turner.
We just ran a poll on who would you rather have right now, Brandon Ingram or Pascal Siakam, and 78% of you chose Brandon Ingram.
6th floor.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, I personally agree. I would rather
have Pascal.
You would rather have Pascal?
I'm a huge Pascal fan.
At this age?
I'm not grabbing the Pascal now.
I think the injury stuff leans more Pascal, but I think the age and the upside and the talent leads more into Ingram.
Yeah,
I don't think either one of them is a dominant. I don't think either one of them is a dominant defender right now.
We already saw the fit with Siakam. It didn't
personally
work.
With the fit and just talent-wise and what the team needs, I would rather have Ingram.
Yeah,
sure.
I think
I got the injury history and stuff.
I think the difference here is like if Pascal had been traded to Scotty's team as opposed to Scotty being drafted to Pascal's team, the dynamic would have been totally different. Pascal would have been able to come in and just kind of play off of it, and he would have been this great bucket getter, and he would have been able to do everything he's doing in Indiana next to Tyrese Halliburton, except he'd be doing it with Scotty Barnes. And I think that would have been great. And I think in the Raptors' mind, they would have loved for that to happen. But that torch passing transition from a 2-time All-NBA guy to a 22-year-old is really difficult. Try to sell anyone on that shit. It's really hard. So
I also believe the team around Pascal in Indiana fits his play more than when he was with the Raptors. There's way more shooting on that team.
How off topic, but how long is Coloco's deal in LA?
It's a 1-year deal.
I think it's just 1 year, right? Yeah.
Return to Toronto.
Sure.
He's not being leveraged in the Lakers right now, I think.
I think he's about to get leveraged.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's about to look great.
Well, yeah, now they need him.
I mean, they need him, but they haven't been playing him. I mean, he still needs time, I think. I think he still needs time.
He wasn't even playing when AD was hurt.
Yeah, he wasn't.
He's occasionally.
He was in the G League, still just making sure he's healthy.
I mean, he's a good, competent rim protector. Trust me, if we had him, he would have made a difference for us. I think it's just because we don't have anything really that approaches that level of rim protection on our team right now. So it just kind of comes down to that, right? Like if we were the Nets and we had Day'Ron Sharp and Nick Claxton, okay, then maybe Coloco doesn't move the needle. But we had Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah.
You saw what happened to Kelly Olynyk today? Yeah.
If you had to pick rim protection or
Yak, same with Yak. Every time you see anybody driving to Yak, and you're like, "Come on, Yak! I know you got." He's like in position, and then it's like, how can he not still block it? Aren't his arms long enough? He's just not that.
I still believe we should not cut him. That's still like, I don't know. That didn't really make sense to me.
Cutting? Who's cutting
We
who?
didn't cut him.
No, we cut Koloko. Didn't we waive him?
No, he had
we
a
waived him
It
because
was
he had a
a
health
health
concern.
issue.
I know, but he
Yeah.
came back like less than a year. Like less, like it wasn't
Yep.
too.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
at
he
that
wasn't
point, he
sure
wasn't on our
thing.
roster.
No, it took him a while to get cleared by medical via NBA's independent medical
Yeah.
team, and then he got signed by the Lakers for more money because they offered him more. It's that simple.
We pursued him too.
And I respect that. I mean, we got to do what we got to do.
Clutch agent,
exactly.
clutch agent too.
That
Are
too.
any of you guys on
That
Real
too.
GM? The forums?
I don't know.
Any of you guys on Real GM forums?
Are they crashing out hard right now?
No, they were earlier when the trade went down, and everybody has mixed feelings about the trade and whatever not. But I feel like it's a great trade. In my personal opinion, the starting lineup looks good. Personally, we need our bench looks good too. It's looking like bench mob 2.0. We'll see how it goes.
Right.
And
One, two
we still have
updates.
till 3 p.m. So we'll see what they do for the second move. Because
My
there's gonna
question
be a
is,
second
how
move for
long's
sure.
Brandon Ingram out right now?
I think it's week by week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
we
so it's
we
not-
read over it.
What
yeah,
is
we-
the injury? It was a sprained ankle.
Yeah,
Is that
sprained
is
ankle.
it that serious though?
I had him on my fantasy team. This
Really
guy's
was.
been out for the last 2 months, a month and a half.
Yeah, he's been out for a long time.
But just like with some players, is he potentially sitting out because of the trade involvement?
Yeah, he's
Dirk,
also
Josh Lewin,
on the Pelicans, right?
Yeah.
They're a tanking team right now. Okay, so I mean,
Yeah,
according
you're
to
on
Josh
the rebuild.
Bloomberg, this is a strange move for a team that's 16 and 35 in a first year of a rebuild, has preached patience and should be selling, not buying. On top of that, Ingram hasn't played more than 64 games since his rookie season and has won 2 playoff games in 9 years. Let's see what the price is. Okay,
He doesn't
so
like
this
it.
is like, hey, I'm not familiar with Brandon Ingram. Let me Google Brandon Ingram really quickly and give you 4 stats about Brandon Ingram that don't
Pretty
really
much.
present the
A
entire.
strange move is being
and
TSN
I view
still.
the team year to year rather than like 10 years from now, 5 years from now. Like I'm very short sighted.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Right.
so CPT, whoever this person is, said it doesn't matter if Ingram is a better player than the indie pick. That isn't some gotcha. The indie pick is unquestionably an asset. The minute Ingram signs an extension, he will be a liability. The only thing yet to be decided is how big. Locking into another inefficient one-way player is a big cost in its own right. This is why I've previously said I wouldn't take him for free. Have to continue hoping I'm wrong, which is not the best feeling. I mean,
Man, they just love to hate on anything that we do. If we didn't make a move, they would hate. If we
Are
make a
these
move, they
Raptors
hate.
fans?
Yo, if we
Yeah.
got KD, there
Yes,
will
the
be people
Raptors
like
form.
iffy about it. If we got KD, people would be still doubting our front office.
To play, why aren't we tanking?
You got to remember, there's still people who think that DeRozan for Kawhi was a bad trade. So they're on
That's
whatever
insane.
form you're looking at.
you know
right
what's
now.
funny?
That's so funny.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
Great thing about that Kawhi trade, besides whatever just happened, it was a way to get out of DeRozan's contract because DeRozan was a clear absolute ceiling on our team. So it was to get off of DeRozan just in case Kawhi failed, and we
You just
could
got to
rebuild.
remember that people who think that still have access to the internet, right?
People are just
So-
emotional about him too. Like even I like I can
Yeah, the
acknowledge that
Pascal
like
trade looks way
the
better
the trade
now.
for Kawhi was good, but like I do feel bad for DeRozan, like on some level, you know.
These
Oh,
fans have
heart-wrenching.
emotional
Yeah.
attachment
I
towards these
see
players.
the
so-
emotional
Yeah, we
part,
all
but like,
felt bad for it.
but
I
like
feel
when we
bad
won
for
that chip, I ain't
Ingram
gonna
is
lie, I
a
wasn't really
clutch.
thinking about DeRozan.
Ingram is apparently a clutch client.
Uh-oh.
He is, isn't he,
fuck.
with Rich Paul in him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does that mean you
clutch
can
is
attract
small.
more clutch clients for a 2-hour team?
No,
when
I
I
don't
went
think
to,
I
when
don't
I went
think
to
that's what
Caesars,
it
I
is.
thought I'd be seeing Rich Paul show up out of nowhere because it used to be Celine Dion as the main draw for Caesar's Palace, but she's put on retirement, and then and it's Adele now who's supposed to be the cover lady for Caesar's Palace.
What?
Yeah. Apparently there's some rumors, concerns that Brandon Ingram likes to smoke some weed.
Bro,
That's not a
what?
concern. That's a
Like,
fucking
He
I
definitely
feel
Yeah,
does, though.
and
Like, he
KD
definitely
does.
does.
Is it even
Everybody
that?
mean,
I
like-
thought he
knows
just
But that's
it.
like
looks like he
70% of the
does.
players in the league today. So it's like,
Yeah,
bro,
that's just a
Yeah.
common thing, bro.
I mean,
Yeah,
Like, I
like-
don't think
Rasheed
people
Wallace
are really
doesn't
like.
smoke
With
weed.
Luca being 270, he gets you your buckets. Let
Luka
him do whatever he
vapes
wants.
on a
He's free.
day-to-day. Like,
You
come
know
on.
who didn't smoke weed? Fred Van Fleet.
I
We don't
don't
want
know,
that. Like, what are we talking about
That's,
here?
that's
The fuck?
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah,
You know who
that's a-
else doesn't
that's a
smoke
good
weed?
point.
Me. So yeah,
Rob, that explains a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
Nah,
right.
that actually does a lot. That's a lot.
it's funny.
yeah, but it's true. And yes, but you know what? I swear, the last time I did, I ended up on a pool table dancing with like 3 girls, and this was
Sounds
like
like
in
you just
college.
smoking
Yeah,
weed.
I was
He's
gonna
like
say,
he's like Jim
And-
Carrey in the
that
mask.
also
and,
feels
and
like the
after,
mood for you.
and after that, all my friends the next day were like trying to tell me that I need to smoke more, because they're just like, you're so much easier to be around and so much less of a tight ass when you actually smoke. So that's funny. And
Oh, that makes
they managed to take pictures of that, and they, like, one of them kind of joked around. They framed it and they said, "Look at this. The next time you decline weed, this is what can happen for your life." So that was really funny to me. But no, I tend to believe, maybe because I was taught, the drugs are bad for you and stuff like that when I was younger, that I don't need things to alter my mood.
I just
So
don't
that's where I'm at.
like something that would worry
Can I
me
ask you
about
a trade question, Rob? Do you view how do you view Ochai? Like, what's his value? Do you see him as a prospect for us, or more of like a tradable commodity because he's kind of a 3-and-D?
Both.
Yeah.
I think he's a very valuable player. Like, I think, again, Ochai is, maybe the D is not nearly as great, but he's versatile as hell. I think he can guard 3 positions. He's okay point of attack, but his rim defense has been like really inspiring. So it's basically,
Yeah.
he
Ochai?
does like 2 amazing things, which is he protects the rim as a guard, which is way more valuable than protecting the rim as a
Super
big.
young too.
He's young, so that's good. So, if you're doing a checklist of great things about Ochai, really coachable, clearly, because he changed his jump shot and he's worked very, very hard since being a Raptor. It's been very nice. He's got a great deal of pedigree of winning. There's a lot of trail of winning from, he's been very well coached by Bill Self and stuff. So in Kansas, and he won a national championship, there's still like, everybody watches March Madness. Everybody watched him, celebrating that win. So there's a little bit of cachet around the league that this is a winning player. He's somehow, when you win a national championship at the collegiate level, like Carmelo Anthony, if you remember Carmelo Anthony winning with Syracuse,
Yeah.
that weird,
Yeah.
like that one win, and it is one game that you win or lose, right? That winning kind of stays attached to you for at least 5-6 years. Like, people always associate you with that win. Joakim Noah, all these
Jalen
guys
Suggs.
who, Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs didn't win a national championship.
No, but he jumped on a table.
He did jump on a table after he hit a big
Like
shot.
Patrick
And-
Beverly.
yeah, those moments
There
are
you go,
huge. I don't think
Mitchell.
people completely acknowledge how many people watch the Final Four. So Ochai is a known commodity. He's got the tag of being a lottery pick, just barely. As a please, someone get out of this chat or get into this chat, because we have 666 people in here, and I don't know what to feel about that, given that we just traded for Brandon Ingram. So yeah, sorry, superstition.
I don't know.
Every
I
time I
see
see those
Oche
3
getting
numbers
kind of
together, I'm
lost in
just
the
like,
mix.
pardon?
I see Oche kind of getting lost in the mix.
He's not a replicable thing that you have on your roster. There isn't another 3-point shooter who shoots like 40+% from your corners, who can guard the rim. What I'm saying is, analytics have a nice way of sort of tracking the game, right? And one of the things you notice is playmaking from your big spot is somehow more valuable for most analytics models, than playmaking from your guard spot, because it's rarer and it's very valuable. Shooting from your big spot is very valuable too, right? I think shooting from your wing, especially specifically from role players in the corners, is a very important thing, because they always end up there somehow, and the fact that you're efficient there is very important.
Yeah.
The fact that his finishing has gotten better is super impressive to me. Like, around the rim, you've seen, just
He
athletic.
playmakes at the elbow well too.
He's a great athlete. He's a great athlete. He's not a good athlete. He's a great athlete. He might
How
be
are they
one-
going to distribute the minutes though? We're getting to that point now, right? With as
And
much
we did
depth as we
trade.
have.
We trade 2 players for 1, so there should be a lot more minutes for him though.
Yeah, but if you factor in Jameson Battle into that extra roster spot, then you're stuck with the exact same number of roster spots you had to begin with. But you do have the flexibility because you go 2 for 1 here that you can do a 2 for 1 again.
I think they've given up on Davion too.
Yeah, he's getting traded
internally. Like with Jamal Shed starting, he's not getting any minutes, and even the minutes he got tonight, he looked bad.
You think he looked bad?
I didn't. The defense wasn't inspiring. I thought he got lost a couple times,
He
and
gets lost a couple times every game. Yeah.
yeah. You know, it's part for the course, but like he did look so unconfident, and I feel for him, but I think he's gone. To be honest,
He plays
I think,
much better.
or
As
at least they've given up on him.
He plays much better as a starter for sure.
To anyone making that background noise, please be mindful. Don't do that. Just press yourself on mute. I know it can be somewhat, you can forget because you haven't talked in a while, but if you have your mic on, we can all hear everything you're doing. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
So as Scotty at point guard, is that conversation kind of gone now, or what happens with that? I know he's still handling the ball, but
I mean, I feel like Darko sort of squashed that when, he started to say, I see him as a big playmaker. I see him as a playmaker. Scotty is a playmaker. He's not a point guard or whatever. Basically, yeah, like, so if Scotty is, I think you are who you guard, man. I really do.
Right.
So if you're starting next to Jacoby, I could see Scotty playing at point and then Jacoby at the 2, and then, like he's got that point of attack, chops to actually like slither around and chase point guards up and down the court. That I could see. Emmanuel Quickley is the same thing, like I could see Emmanuel Quickley guarding ones while he plays the 2. But if you're gonna go with like BI plus Scotty as a backcourt, like you're just messed up. Like you're just gonna be fucked defensively. It's really hard.
Yeah, that's fair.
The power with a very underrated super chat. BI demand double teams from a position, and that type of attention will open up the Raptors' offense, which will make the game easier for our shooters to get more open looks. Yo, 100% agree with you. The Raptors under Darko Rajakovic the last 2 years, really throughout the last 2 years, the Raptors' shot quality index has been off the numbers. Like it's been off the charts. The Raptors are very, very good at generating good looks everywhere. The problem is they're not very good at converting them, because those good looks that the analytics models are picking up as good looks are predictable and somewhat redundant and not as open as they should be, because your offensive talent does not warrant panic. Brandon Ingram, one-on-one, isolated against a point guard on the block, warrants panic. You have to actually double that. Brandon Ingram catching the ball above the break and you have a center switched out onto him is a cross match that is like he's going to execute over that. He's going to get past this man. And if he can refine that burst that he had a couple of years ago, because he was much better getting downhill, much better attacking the rim, much better, pressuring the rim, then he's a talent worth watching. And also, I mean, I just think there's a reputation that comes to defense and offense. Right, Brandon Ingram is a reputational. Like, you're not ignoring Brandon Ingram, okay? Like, let's be for real right now. This is a dude who is like a certified bucket in the NBA. So we often talk about players going through shooting regressions and shooting upheavals, or shooting swells and dips and valleys, right? So when a 40% career 3-point shooter, like a real knockdown shooter, like a Klay Thompson, goes through an entire 3-month stretch where he shoots like 26%, he still gets guarded like he's Klay Thompson, right? That's the difference. Like, people are slow to adjust. Jonathan Mobo and Jamal Shed are shooting way better right now. They're still being guarded like they're Jamal Shed and Jonathan Mobo. And I think that it's really important when people cite, oh, this guy's a 27% 3-point shooter. This guy's a 26% 3-point shooter. This guy's a 48% 3-point shooter. And it's just like, okay, the 48% shooter isn't being guarded like a 48% 3-point shooter.
Right.
And the 30% 3-point shooter ain't being guarded like a 30% 3-point shooter. So if the 30% 3-point shooter is being guarded like he's a 40% 3-point shooter, and the 45% 3-point shooter is being guarded like he's a 30% 3-point shooter, then it doesn't fucking matter. The whole thing is redundant. The goal is to have a 40% 3-point shooter who's guarded like a 40% 3-point shooter. Now you have basically the actualized version of Grady Dick. Grady Dick is funny because Grady hasn't shot well at any stretch in his Raptors career so far, and yet he's still guarded like he's lights out.
Yeah.
It's very important to realize that when people say, I don't know if Grady can shoot, and it's like, well, why don't you let other coaches in the league know that, because they don't agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
just wait. He'll be able to shoot soon.
Yeah.
Like I think he's going to benefit more than anyone from this trade, to be honest. If he starts getting some of those clear looks, I mean, assuming they play together, but
Exactly.
once he starts getting those and gets the confidence in a shot again, like we've seen it, man, it's butter. Like his shot is pretty. You know, once he gets a little bit more confidence in it, I don't know. I got high hopes for him personally.
I just think also like his movement, like how much he has to move around the
Right.
court just to do stuff, it's very taxing. You
Yeah,
know,
for
this is
sure.
not real. This is not. So there's a conditioning element that where you know, at some point you're gonna have to get yourself conditioned up to the point where you're not super tired. I also think like going up against second units is gonna ease his load a little bit. This is a great
That's
thing for Grady.
experience.
And
He needs
also, you know,
experience.
you're not bringing in like some sort of selfish, you know, guy who just hunts for his own shots and ignores everything. And okay, whoever's doing that click, click, click thing, I don't know who's doing it. Just please stop. Like it's like I don't know what it is. Someone said it sounds like you're farting into the.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah, who is that?
I don't know.
Is someone making some sort of sound that we need to know about?
Is it me?
It might be Sean. Sean, is it you?
No, it's definitely not me. I'm on mute on and off this whole time.
Okay,
Guarantee
it's
it's
not
not me.
Lane. We need to figure out who the hell this is. Who is farting? Ace, is it you?
No, I don't think. No, I don't know what it is, bro.
It
I
could
hear
be
it too.
it could be someone's mic too. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So I mean, I just think that it's important to sort of frame this from the perspective of, you know, when you bring in a player like this, everybody's life gets easier. As your life gets easier, your shots get more open, right? So that's what it is. It just gets you're just making Scotty's life easier, and you're giving him an additional weapon. And you know, Scotty is gonna get more assists now. I mean, like, how many potential assists does this guy get every single game? He is one of the league leaders in assists, potential assists per game. Scotty was. I looked at the numbers. Granted, I haven't looked at them in over 2 weeks, but last time I looked at the numbers, he had more potential assists per game than Luka Doncic.
Crazy.
And he was
one of the good things too is, I mean, Zion was obviously, when healthy, was their number one option, but BI's pretty much been the number one option in New Orleans for how long now? He's got
Last
that
couple
experience
years.
of actually being the number one option, you know? So it's not going to be new to him if they do need to call upon him to take that role for a bit.
Absolutely. Just want to quickly respond to a couple of these super chats. Slitherman, feel like quickly contract will quickly become an albatross. Will become an albatross soon. He's been hurt by his production. His is like 60% of his play. Ingram is going to expect more money. I don't really think it's going to be an albatross at any point. It'll be a slight overpay or a fair pay. It's going to be one of those two outcomes.
By the end of his contract, he'll look like a steal. Or like at a good rate.
There is a possibility that if he develops, and again, playing off of, like, again, we've seen so many players play out of context this season and struggle mightily. And we've seen players play in the right context and thrive. An example of a player playing out of context this year was Kyle Kuzma. Right? Okay, here's a question for anyone who hasn't checked. If you have checked recently, don't answer. What would you say is Kyle Kuzma's box plus minus with the Wizards this season?
He was shit this year.
Okay, so he's been around 0 to 2-ish, probably for most of his career. Over or under -3?
Damn.
I would hope over.
Mm-mm.
Damn.
Kyle Kuzma was more than a -5 box plus minus this year with the Wizards.
Crazy.
Kyle Kuzma. Hold on, I can check that. I think it was like 5.6.
I was gonna guess -2.
What about Jordan Poole?
Oh, dude, like,
why are you saying that like you're surprised?
Okay, so in terms of the Wizards, 5. Okay, so Kyle Kuzma is a -5.4 box plus minus. Keyshawn George -5.6. Carlton Carrington, Bub Carrington -5.4. We got Jonas Valanciunas is a 0.2 and Jared Butler is a 0.8. Jordan Poole is a negative 0.4. Patrick Baldwin, negative 0.5. He's gone now. Rashawn Holmes, -1. Marvin Bagley, -1. Even a frigging analytics darling like Malcolm Brogdon in 20 games is a -1.5. Team matters, man. So you look at what Kyle Kuzma is going to be after this deal when he plays in Milwaukee. I'll guarantee you. I mean, if you want to see this, one sec, let me just flash it on. Here's what happens to your analytics or your overall stats profile when you go and play for a really bad team. And by the way, it's not like he was playing on a good team last year. Malcolm Brogdon was playing on the Portland Trailblazers. So look at Boston. Granted, you can argue this is just regression, but this is an example of what happens when you play with worse talent and better talent. So there's an amplification effect. He was the 6th man of the year for the Boston Celtics. Malcolm Brogdon was. He had a 2.8 box plus minus, which was a career high. He had been trending up for 3 straight years. He goes to Portland. He maintains some value in 39 games with 2.0 box plus minus. This year is a -1.5. If you look at Kyle Kuzma, look at his career. It's actually remarkable what an outlier this 1 year is. And if you actually watch the Wizards, you'll realize they're doing some pretty crazy outlier things with their roster. They've just never had so little talent, you know? So just, I mean, to focus just on one metric here for a second, -5.4. I mean, granted, he's been roughly negative, so I misquoted or I misspoke earlier, but he's been roughly like -1-ish for most of his career. He's -1.3 on his career, but -5.4 is a massive outlier. Massive outlier. His efficiency dip by 6% true shooting. That's a huge dip. So people saying Scotty is like, this and that, whatever. It's like, okay, like you look at Scotty when he had Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby and Dennis Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl. That's not a super team. That's not a super team. He wasn't on a freaking super team that he's like, oh, wow, he's just got so much help. No, those are just normal 4 NBA players who are really good, And now you're back in that situation where you have 4 normal, good NBA players. Haven't had that in a long time. Now you do.
Explaining, too, is why I'm so optimistic about Ingram. Because is he really falling off, or is he kind of a product of the environment he's been in?
I'm sure it's the environment. When you have your highest paid supposed superstar do all that funny activity in the back on the background, and
like, could you imagine being Zion Williamson's teammate? Like, think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So unreliable. I mean, there's imagine like you're going to war with this guy and he never shows up. He just leaves you to dry every time. Like, that's effort, man. Like Brandon Ingram's got to go alone. He's like not alone. You know what I mean? Like, and
I think also like there was a lot of talk like a few months ago, or not a few months ago, a few years ago, about potentially, who should the Pelicans really be building around, Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson, right? If you remember, the Pelicans during the in-season tournament last year, like BI was carrying, and then Zion was lagging, right? So it's like when your best player is able to get away with everything, comes in out of shape every year, that's who you're getting your marching orders from. Now, I have no idea. I'm going to look into so much Brandon Ingram stuff. I'm going to call everyone I can tomorrow morning and get as much information about this dude as possible, and then research as much as possible. So I feel like Pendance is going to take a back seat for the next day. But my thought would be, I wonder if he's a natural leader or a follower. You can be really, really good and be more of a second type of player in terms of like your leadership style. So you're grooming Scotty to be a leader, and Scotty's not Zion. Like, it's also kind of, I mean, I guess looking at the dynamic of the team and stuff, like it does help that Scotty made an all-star team. He does have like that little bit of cachet around the league. There's a little bit of respect for it, right? But I don't think Brandon Ingram is walking in to the gym and saying, this guy's better at getting his shot off than me, So,
and he should, right? He shouldn't. I mean, we need confidence. Need confidence.
And he's a
Need
dog
dogs.
too. Like
Yeah,
he's
you
a
need
dog.
dogs. You need dogs. I mean, realistically, you want every single guy on the court to feel like they should be the ones taking the last shot, but you also need every single guy on the court to understand why they're not the one taking the last shot. Right? You need guys like that, and I think BI is exactly that. You traded for the right person. You
I
traded for
agree.
exactly the right person.
Well, I mean, he's played off of players before, right? I've never watched Brandon Ingram play and say that guy's selfish.
No,
I don't feel like he's selfish. I think
he
he
makes everyone better. He makes everyone better. And I keep reading chats, and I keep seeing the like defensive concern. Do you realize how much better your defense gets when the ball goes in the hoop? Your defense gets so much better when the ball goes in the hoop. BI is going to
Agreed.
put the ball in the hoop.
Yep.
I
That's the
agree.
thing. I think there was even an interview today talking about the Luka trade, and they were saying like, yeah, obviously we took a hit on defense, but we might just be at a point where we just got to win by outscoring everyone. And obviously defense wins championships, but as the league kind of changes, of course you need good defenders, but we're still kind of trending towards an offensive league where obviously defensive deficiencies are still something to worry about. But if you got a team that can go put up 140, maybe not in the playoffs, obviously, but we now have that potential where I don't think we really had that before.
And I just can't stop thinking about like when Scotty gets blitzed, he's passing to Brandon Ingram now. In an
But you know
advantage.
what's amazing? That Scotty can cut off that pass and Brandon Ingram can find him for an alley-oop. Better than
It's
any
beautiful.
teammate he's ever had. Is
obvious.
Brandon Ingram the best passer that Scotty Barnes has ever played with?
He's better than Cade, I think.
I mean, better. Okay, sorry, better than any passer he's played with in the NBA.
Okay, yeah.
Pascal's a good
Is he a better
passer.
passer than Emmanuel Quickly? Yes. Is he a better passer than RJ Barrett? Yes. Is he a better passer than Jakob Poeltl? Yes. Siakam? Yes.
McCollum?
OG? Yes.
Did Scotty
So he's playing like, I mean, in theory, is he a better passer than Jamal Shed? I mean, I don't know about that, but among rotation starting level players, I think this is the best passer and probably the most naturally talented player that Scotty Barnes has played with in the NBA ever. So that's it. Like that's my question, right? Dennis Schroeder, maybe Fred VanVleet,
Kyle.
maybe, but I feel
Kyle,
like
okay.
they're on the same kind of level. But I think because Brandon Ingram, like again, passing and scoring ability, this goes neck and neck. If you're not a threat to really score on all three levels, your passing is somewhat muted. I feel like BI's ability to pass is completely linked to his ability to force double teams and to create openings. So I just feel like if I'm a team trying to guard this team right now, I think Emmanuel Quickly is going to be more open than he's ever been in his life.
Yep.
I feel like RJ Barrett is going to get wider cutting lanes, and I feel like BI and Scotty and Jakob are just going to feed the farm.
Yeah.
You know?
Our lineup is nice this year. For next year.
Also, you don't have to force Scotty in the bench lineups anymore. You could put Scotty and RJ in the bench, Scotty and IQ in the bench, Scotty and BI in the bench, right? There's no more just Scotty and the bench, which is absolutely beautiful because I hated watching him try to struggle to freaking carry that damn bench while also guarding the best player on the floor.
Facts. Medved says, how long will it take BI to adopt to our basketball style? How long is he out with the injury? So the injury thing, we will wait and see. It could be one of those things where he literally walks into Toronto tomorrow and he's like, guys, I'm ready to suit up this week. It really could be that because injuries can be really secretive, you know? So I think he'll probably be ready to go at some point, right? And the Raptors are in a weird, precarious sort of situation where they could go in for the play-in. They could make a push right now. They can make a push. And if it goes really poorly, I mean, your next game is against it's against the OKC Thunder. So I don't know if he suits up for that. That would be a horrible introduction to Brandon Ingram, right, for the Toronto Raptors, because that's going to be a hell of a game to try and, you know, catch your wind after not playing for so long. But as the schedule softens a little bit, he'll have plenty of games to be able to get back into the toe. And again, it's not going to work right away. He's a really difficult player to also integrate because he does so much. And it's difficult to, I don't want to say it's difficult to play off of him, but it's just because he's so talented. There's a lot of like your turn, my turn basketball where like Scotty doesn't know where his spots are. He doesn't know where his, and these guys have never played together. So it's not like DeRozan and Levine or DeRozan and Valanciunas. There's no existing chemistry at all. It's not like they played during the same AAU, stints or stuff. So these guys are just totally unfamiliar with each other. And Brandon Ingram is just like, he's not a guy who's just going to stand in the corner and take knockdown threes. He's not coming in like Ochai. It's just like, oh, a role player. No, you're trying to implement an actual star level talent, and you're implementing him in the context of every single loss is another nail in the coffin. So, at some point, the Raptors obviously are not going to be able to hold out Brandon Ingram. There's another complication of this. You can't hold him out in a contract year and then not pay him.
He will leave.
You can't trade a first round pick and not pay him.
Exactly.
There's no way.
He will play, but when he plays, they will not all play together. Like,
okay, hang on. I have a thought. Okay, so let's play out the disaster scenario, which is Brandon Ingram gets here, and this summer he doesn't want to stay long term here, and so you are going to facilitate a sign and trade.
Damn.
Okay. Now, I know we're all thinking, what does Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes look like for the next 6 years? But what if you rehab his value a lot and then you sign and trade him? Wouldn't you get back more than a first round pick that you just gave up? Yes, you would. And also,
depends on the contract you're giving him.
Would you agree with the following statement? Kelly Olynyk was probably a negative asset.
Yes.
Okay. So we all agree that Kelly Olynyk was a negative asset.
For sure.
Most of the time, when you get rid of a negative asset, you actually have to attach a pick. So let's just part out that second round pick that the Raptors traded. Actually, let's consider that first round pick that the Raptors traded a mid-ish 2026 first. And let's just say 60% of that was just to get off of Kelly Olynyk's money, which is stupid because when you think about it, you didn't have to sign him to the deal you signed him to. But let's just say 50% of it. So really, at this point, what have you really lost? You lost Bruce Brown, which is nothing. And in the end, if Brandon Ingram is signed and traded away after you've rehabbed his value, you might get much more than a first round pick back. You might get a first round pick and a decent young player back. So I feel like the Raptors' best interest right now is to play things above the belt and be very ethical with Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
Right.
Look at the market too. Is there like realistically for the money that presumably is under the table, kind of like given right now, I would imagine they have a deal if they're making a trade like this. And
sure,
like, is there really a big market for Brandon Ingram as a number 1 or 2 option at that kind of money?
There's
Like, think
only
about it.
1 or 2 teams that have cap space to sign Brandon
If he
Ingram.
redeems his value,
I don't for that kind of money. Like, I don't think
I didn't say
options are
as
big.
a signing. I said as a sign and trade. Now it's a sign and
Yes.
trade. We're
No,
talking
no,
about a completely different
Yeah,
pool of players.
yeah,
You're
we
also
would
talking
take
about
contracts.
like you could take back. Shoot, like there's so many players.
Negative value plus
No,
young
we're
guys.
keeping him. Get
I
this
see where
energy out of there. We're keeping
someone
him.
said Brooklyn can just sign him straight up in free agency. They could, but
They
they
are
would
the
be
only team
risking.
that can.
They would be risking
Why, though?
AJ DeBonsa next year. Like Brooklyn is not just gearing up for
He's too
flag.
far
They're gearing
past
up
their
for AJ.
timeline. Like, the timeline doesn't fit.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit. He's too old.
Is it
They're-
true that we gave up a 2031 second round pick? Because that's what I seen.
Yes.
So I love
Useless.
that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Let's remember that Brandon Ingram
love that.
torched us last year for 41 points, too. I don't know if anyone remembers that game.
No, I still remember it.
He
It
went
destroyed
off
us.
on us. He went
was a
off.
blowout.
The game before that, 36 points. So, I mean, not that that says much, but I distinctly
He
remember
puts
that
up
41
numbers.
point game.
He puts up numbers. That's for
We
sure.
were a terrible defense, and he torched us. Yes, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Lane came in with just the right message, which is you want talent. That's why you want draft picks. You want to find talent, right?
Mhm.
You want to find high lottery talent. You want to find, dynamic talents, because those dynamic talents make your role players great.
Having talent gives you flexibility.
It gives you flexibility for sure. And I mean, I'm looking at this summer. Okay, let's just say, for instance, this Brandon Ingram thing doesn't work out or whatever, for whatever reason in Toronto. I don't feel like if you rehab this correctly, if you rehab his value correctly, guess what? Next year, you potentially have a player having a potentially contract year, career year on the first year of a $120 million, $130 million 3-year extension.
And a
I
playoff team
think
will give you assets for that.
totally. Now you can open up the Brandon Ingram sweepstakes if you feel like it's not a great fit or whatever, right? Again, people are such, what have you done for me lately? I'm telling you, losing teams, they get taxed. They get taxed. So as your draft pick value goes up, your player values go down. Right now, Zion Williamson's a hell of a talent. I've seen plenty of credible people put him above Scotty Barnes. I feel like most Raptor fans would expect like a return of like 7 first-round picks for Scotty Barnes or something like that, or 6. But Zion Williamson, there are people talking about waiving him for nothing just to get off the contract. You know what I mean? So when that happens, it's usually because the outlook on you is so bearish. Look at De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is a great example. How different is the coverage of De'Aaron Fox versus the coverage of Zach LaVine? Would you believe me if I told you Zach LaVine's actually impacted winning more this year? He has. He's had a better year. But it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Zach LaVine's made more all-star teams, I think. I think Zach LaVine's made 2 all-star teams and De'Aaron Fox made 1. Or they've each made 1. Anyways, my point is the marketing around De'Aaron Fox. If I had told you 2 years ago that De'Aaron Fox was getting traded for Brandon Ingram, you'd be like, the Kings robbed the Pelicans. But today, because of where we are, and where we are is important. It's important to realize, like, we can't just ignore reality. We can't ignore the decline. We can't ignore the injuries. This is all real. I'm just saying 2 years ago, you look at this and you're like, now, it's very different if you're talking 2 years ago with Siakam, someone who's north of 30, or Anthony Davis, or, Clint Capella, or anyone who's just on the wrong side of 30. But with Brandon Ingram, I think the Raptors did their research on this, and I think what they found is that there's a player here who could become so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm seeing a world in which if you properly rehab his value, you might be able to dangle him for 3 first-round picks in a year.
You rehabbed RJ's value in 1 year.
Potentially.
Yes.
You rehabbed RJ, who was a quote-unquote toxic asset, in 1 year.
It's as bad as it gets. RJ's reputation in New York.
Yeah.
Well, what was RJ worth? I mean, I want to put a dollar amount to what RJ was worth based on his production in New York. I want to say RJ Barrett was worth around $12 million based on his production in New York.
Damn.
Inconsistent shooter. 12 is being generous. It was because he's 23 years old that he even gets 12. He was basically playing like a mid-level player. He was not playing better than Karis LeVert. He was not playing better than Gary Trent Jr. He was like in that same role. Okay. The same boat. So, okay. So now I would say RJ Barrett is fairly paid. That's double. You've doubled. And he's having a cold shooting year overall. The efficiency has dipped from last year. So, but the defense has gotten better lately. So it's like, okay, so it's the same thing. Do the same thing with Brandon Ingram. What's Brandon Ingram actually playing like right now? He's playing like a $25 million player. So double it and get him to play like a $50 million player. $50 million players who play like $50 million players who are 27, 28 years old usually go for 3 to 4 first-round picks. Just want to throw that out there.
True that. And he's just getting
under Darko. Why can't BI become like why can't BI become Devin Booker with Darko? I mean, think about it, right? Like, why not better? He's taller, he's longer. I mean, I know it's crazy, but like, it would be a
different play styles.
I mean, obviously, but like in terms of just the shooting prowess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you develop
The
him
handle,
into a $50 million player,
that 3-level scoring with Darko, like I get excited about that.
James seems to be reiterating this point in the chat so that everyone can hear him. So I just want to put his comment on the screen. BI has been in decline for years.
So have the Pelicans, yeah.
So have the Pelicans, and that's fair. I also don't think that it's necessarily natural for a player of Brandon Ingram's age to be declining as rapidly as he has. Like, his decline has mirrored that of like a 32-year-old player. And when I say that, I mean it. Like, the efficiency around the rim, the ability to attack the rim and all that stuff. So you can really, really sell yourself on the idea that there's just a really bad fit with him in that organization and you're going to make it better with the Raptors. You could also really approach this differently with Brandon Ingram. And you could say, this is a trial for you.
There's something to prove.
Yeah, you
Show us
show
what you
us
got.
what you're worth, and we'll figure it out. Do the same thing that you did with Quickly. Let's see. Now here's a random scenario. What if the Raptors do make the play-in, and then they make the playoffs, and they have a really competitive first round against Cleveland with Brandon Ingram healthy? Now, okay, you have the 15th overall pick, so that sucks. But I feel like now you really do have to pay him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
I hope. I think
this
that's
is
the
what
best case scenario. That like
Let's
isn't that
pay
what we
him
want?
regardless.
How much are you giving him in that situation?
a win-win.
Yo, Priceless Entertainment with a super chat to make me cry. Never in my life have I ever tuned into this good of a sports analyst page, and I've tuned into a lot. Loads of respect to you. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you.
What's the probability though that there's already a deal on the table for Brandon Ingram?
Oh, there has to be.
100%.
Has to be.
This trade
That's what
doesn't
I'm
look like
thinking.
he was.
They wouldn't have traded for him if there wasn't.
No question.
They have an
That's
idea.
what
I
I'm
don't know if
thinking.
they have all the details, but probably a range.
They wrote down a number on a piece of paper and slid it over to him. They've
They
done
had to
that
talk
at
to
least.
Clutch. Fucking Clutch is probably rinsing our asses. But
Well, Clutch also moved De'Aaron Fox. Clutch
yeah,
also moved Anthony Davis. You realize
it's
that
true.
3 of the biggest Clutch clients have moved in the last 3 days?
Clutch likes the Raptors too. They recognize their development prowess.
Yep, Chomche's a clutch
Yep.
client.
Like the
Exactly.
thing too, you know what
OG
he
was as well.
rejected from New Orleans, right? So you have a ballpark range of what
You
he's
think
expecting.
Shamache falls that far without Clutch involvement?
Nah, he's too young right now.
We want him to the Raptors.
Sorry, say that again.
Oh no, I was just saying like I think Clutch just said we want him to the Raptors. Like they wanted him to drop that far.
I think they wanted him wherever he was going to get paid.
Fair enough.
I think they
But he's
they
gonna get
put,
paid from development, is what I'm saying as well, right? Like long-term development. Like with good development, he could get paid much more than like the minimum. You know, like if you look at it long-term.
if are you talking about Brandon Ingram?
No. It's like from a Clutch perspective on Shamache, like
Oh,
they're looking,
Shamshi, 100%.
yeah.
No, 100%. For Shamshi, it comes down to stability, making sure that he gets to the second contract, making sure that he's comfortable. You know, that's what a good agency does. I mean, they
Yeah.
have plenty of experience with that with Christian Koloko. They know Koloko was treated well, treated fairly, and the Raptors did a good job with his development. So they hand him, Shamshi with, obviously there's history with Messiah and stuff. So I just think like this was a great deal for Clutch to get him here, and that's what a good agency
Exactly
is
what I'm
supposed
saying,
to do.
yeah.
They're supposed to put you in a position to not only get your next contract, but also to be happy and comfortable. If I had an agent and that agent pushed me into like some really shit situation, like, and they didn't warn me about it, and they could have put me in a better one, I'd be upset.
You change agents for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the reason that some people maybe potentially are clowning the Raptors for paying as much as they did is because the Pelicans needed to move Brandon Ingram, largely because they need to pay Trey Murphy, and they're a really cheap organization. They're not going to be able to pay them both, and they weren't going to pay Brandon Ingram, and Brandon Ingram was going to walk for nothing. So in a weird way, the Pelicans were in a similar situation as the Raptors were last year with Indiana. But I want you to compare what the Raptors got for Pascal versus what the Pelicans got for Brandon Ingram. Which deal is better? I feel like the Raptors got more for Pascal personally.
Well, doesn't it depend on what the Pels get back on their draft pick, and like if they trade that pick again, and then depends on that.
Presuming that it's the Pacers.
Yeah,
do
well, good luck to the Pels
Yeah.
on getting like 2 Pascal Siakams with those picks. But again, we'll see what happens in the next 2 years.
Well,
On paper,
when the
Pelicans
Raptors
have them.
traded, like again, risk locks in differently depending on how you look at this from a mathematical perspective. Like, where does the risk actually lock in? I think it locks in at the transaction. So when the Raptors traded for that 2026 Pacers pick, there was still an outstanding element of, could this Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton thing just fail horribly? Could Pascal be a terrible fit? Could this whole thing fall apart? Could there be chemistry issues? Now I feel like that draft pick might have a tremendous amount of downside because of the Miles Turner situation, but there's less of a concern about whether or not Pascal Siakam is going to fit in Indiana. He's fit very well in Indiana, right? He's fit brilliantly in Indiana to the point where he's an all-star right now. So I feel like maybe the Raptors took that as a hold and gamble, right? We're going to hold it until we're clearer in terms, because again, projecting Indiana's future in 2025 for 2026 is much easier than doing it in 2024, right? So the Raptors kind of took that as an asset, and based on how the Indiana Pacers are doing and how they're expected to do next year, they made an educated guess that the pick that they traded for last year is actually less valuable than the pick they just gave up. Picks are weirdly, like, I'm trying to explain this from my 3 a.m. brain, but I hope someone's picking up what I'm putting down. The further out the trade, the pick is, the more risk is involved.
Mhm.
If the
More
Raptors
uncertainty.
right now trade a 2031 unprotected, there's a lot of risk involved with that unprotected pick. It feels like less because it's so far away, but a smart general manager knows that that pick could become a knife hanging over your head very quickly, especially if it's unprotected. A top 4 protection is basically an unprotected pick. It's a very, very loose protection. So when the Indiana Pacers gave up that pick, there was a considerable amount of risk from the Pacers side because they had no idea how Pascal was going to actually fit with the Pacers. Now that we all understand how Pascal is fitting with the Pacers and that he does not look like a shell of himself because he signed the contract, then the realistic projection for the Pacers next year is that they're probably going to be a 500 team, at which point it's not going to be a lottery pick. Whereas when you traded for it, it could have been a lottery pick, if you get my point. Right now, something really horrible has to happen for the Pacers to convert a lottery pick. So that's where I see, like, maybe the Raptors got a better pick than the one that they actually gave up.
Correct.
It's like
Even if it's the same pick.
Correct.
The pick next year is more predictable than like a pick 2 years from now.
Exactly. Like, it's as simple as this. Like, you walk into the draft and you have the 7th best odds, and you decide to trade the pick before the lottery. Okay, well, that's a big question mark. But if you trade it after you secure the 3rd pick, that's a very different asset. So yeah, so I just think the Raptors kind of looked at that as a rolling thing. And obviously, if the Pacers were falling apart right now, I don't think they would have traded that pick. That pick would have been a gold mine. So it kind of sucks that the Raptors didn't deal this pick when the Pacers were looking terrible, because I feel like it would have been worth more.
San Antonio pick, right?
Pardon?
They learned their lesson with the San Antonio pick, because that's kind of what they did. The total opposite. They dealt that pick thinking that it was going to be terrible because Yak was going to come and they were going to go on a run, and that kind of bit them in the ass, right?
Sure, exactly. It's the same thing in
That's
reverse.
rebuild, yeah. It was a whole.
And of course, as I'm watching Matas Buzelis popping off for the Chicago Bulls, I'm left wondering, what if, and maybe next year if Nikola Topic is going crazy with the OKC Thunder and looking like one of the best young backup point guards in the league, we'll be wondering, like, what if you hadn't traded for Jakob Poeltl, that's there. Look, I think the Raptors can recoup a lot of assets back. Like, I understand, like, some people have some trepidations about giving up 2 picks for Brandon Ingram. It's very disingenuous to call these 2 picks. You really gave up 1 pick and probably like a nothing burger of a second round pick 6 years out. I don't have a problem with that. I think you can recoup at least 3 picks if you decide to actually deal some assets tomorrow.
I see in the chat someone just said Brandon Ingram's more DeMar than KD because he doesn't shoot threes. Oh my. Oh my.
Who said that?
What? What the?
Auto 7. He's more DeMar than KD. LOL. He doesn't shoot threes.
Oh my.
LOL is what we are doing at your comment here. He shoots threes, bro. Go check how many threes he takes per 100 possessions. I think you'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah, it's past that guy's bedtime.
He doesn't shoot Boston threes. That's the difference. I think that's what he's saying. He has to shoot 12 threes a game. Then he shoots threes.
DCF saying, do you think giving up a first round pick was necessary? Well, you were either going to give up a first round pick or you were going to give up Jacoby Walter.
That's the thing too. Of course, it was necessary. Like, you got to keep in mind the Raptors weren't the only team that was going for him. So at some point, it's also you got to do something to outbid the other team.
I'm surprised Hawks didn't have a better offer. I'm really
Jacoby
surprised.
looked great tonight, by the way.
Jacoby looked awesome.
He
So I
was
mean, look, the
awesome.
Raptors have so many. Look, if this Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes thing pairs well and it looks really good, and you see it in action, and you can project that this is the type of thing that can bring you to the Eastern Conference Finals next year. And yes, I just said Eastern Conference Finals. I realize we're a 16-win team, but like this is a
I
significant
see
talent
it.
upgrade. So if you believe that, you have the package right now to actually get a star. I would love to let y'all know that this offseason, if the Raptors want an actual star, they have the assets to get one.
They have the assets to attract.
Luca.
No, not Luca, but
They have to wait
like,
after the lottery gets announced.
somebody else.
What
So
do you think we could get?
I don't know who's free next offseason.
I'm gonna keep hammering my Devin Booker thing until I'm blue in the face. But Devin Booker is an example of a guy who could be made available if things go very poorly in Phoenix.
Keep
But
tabs on Milwaukee.
you know, I mean, we don't know who becomes available, and I mean, like the Raptors are like, who could become available? Now look at this.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I don't think Giannis becomes available. Not if they just trade for Kuz.
Giannis could become available, and I feel like the Raptors at that point would have a very competitive offer for Giannis. I do believe other teams will beat it, though. I'm not necessarily talking like top 5, top 6 players, but you know, I mean,
Kyrie's a free agent next.
God,
season.
no. Please, no.
I don't think the Raptors touch that, to be
I
honest.
think the Giannis ship sailed too. Like, it's a bit redundant of a player. I mean, it's still Giannis, but at the end of the day, I don't know.
He's
I don't
still like
think
one
that
of the best
fit.
players in the world. But yeah, I don't think
I
he can-
want Jack Armstrong to do a one-on-one with Giannis, and I want him to repeat what he said on that score interview. I want him to tell him, Scotty Barnes is more talented than you, Giannis. Your response. I want to hear it. Okay.
Not that we would ever go after him, but how available do you think Kawhi is, depending how the season goes for the Clippers? Not
yeah.
that we would go after him per se, but
Available, like as in trade, or available to play basketball?
He's not moving.
Trade. But great point.
I'd be more worried about his availability to play games.
If I look at the value of replacement leaders across the league as a, you know, just a snapshot of league around the league value, just to some of the best players around the league, players that could be available. I guess I just highlight the players that I think could be available.
Do any of the trade restrictions change in the summer, or is it
Yep.
still salary for salary, or can you do?
So here's a player that I think the Raptors could go after this summer that would make a lot of sense on this team as currently constructed, would definitely require RJ and IQ going the other way. And that's probably Lauri Markkanen. He can be traded this summer. So Lauri Markkanen is an example of a player who realistically you have ample assets to get, and they would be happy to, you know, talk to you about it. So Lauri Markkanen is one.
I don't think he's worth both RJ and IQ, unfortunately, though.
Pardon?
I don't think he's worth both RJ and IQ after how he's played.
I just bought a Quickly jersey, and I think he might be.
I don't think so. Both of this kind of crazy for me.
I don't know.
I
mean, it's another all-star.
It's a fit. That's another fit trade. You know, it comes down to that fits.
It'd be massive though.
Do you think we could get Derek Lively? Oh,
no,
he's untouchable.
I don't want to say
they just traded Luca, guys.
Bro, he's not. He's definitely not
Yeah, 'cause
untouchable, and that front office is like absolutely ridiculous.
Rob Pelinka had a gun to his head. That's how they got Luca. That's the only way that trade happens.
I don't know. He turned around and gave away Quentin Grimes
over here for us.
Among players that are actually or would possibly be available, and again, like it's like you look around the league at the best players in the league, and it's just like not a lot of them are actually available. Desmond Bane is having a year from hell. He is available. I think not he is available, but he could be available because I think they may have some buyer's remorse on that contract. So
Wait, why didn't Bane play today?
He's injured.
Still an injury.
Oh, okay.
So that's another one. Kevin Durant, although that would be a really weird fit. Norman Powell, not that I mean, sort of sore point for Raptor fans, but yes, he is in that conversation as that good a player.
Why would KD be a weird fit?
What's Nas Reed's contract?
Well, we have KD Jr., right? So that's why.
Yeah, Nas Reed. Well, I mean, number
What's
one,
his
he's
contract?
Nas Reed.
Yeah, like how many years left?
I think he has 1 or 2 years left.
Ooh.
Someone can check it quick.
He's
but
someone I'd be really interested in.
Facts.
He'd be a good stretch big that we need. Yeah.
And the defense, oh.
Yeah. I mean, again, you look around the league and you're like, damn, there just aren't that many really good players that could potentially be made available. It's not every single day that a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns is just available. And again, Karl-Anthony Towns is a great example of a player, different context.
He has 2 years left.
2 years. So Nas Reed has 2 years left. You look at a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, and I'm seeing a completely different player than the one I saw last year. Completely different. Completely different. There's no way in hell that the player he is today goes for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. You're adding like picks upon picks upon picks on that. Okay. Like he's playing like a star right now. He's playing like a second team All NBA guy, as opposed to a guy who's like totally washed. If you look at Karl-Anthony Towns' career, it's actually very, very strikingly. Look at the gap. So it's very similar to Brandon Ingram. I mean, he's much, 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 much higher talent level than Brandon Ingram and impact and all that stuff. But look at what I'm talking about. He had these 5 years where he was like borderline all NBA. He was all NBA third team in 2017-18. He was all NBA third team again in 21-22. Then he had these 2 years where everyone started to think he's a bum now. Right? Look at the outlier. You see my screen, right? I mean,
Funny.
just to use
that's when Rudy Gobert joined the team too.
Yes, it is. And he was in the wrong context and he played power forward those 2 years. And look at the production. I mean, there's a lower, like, do you know what happens when you put him at power forward? You take one of his biggest gifts away, which is his quickness, right? And I just think that this year with New York, he has recaptured every element. If not, he's having one of the best seasons of his life.
He's optimized
since
for sure.
24. So that's 5 years, and it's just gone the other way. And oh, by the way, when he was traded, he's 2 years older than Brandon Ingram. So I think that the Raptors are hoping that Darko's system plus playing in a different situation can do similar things for Karl-Anthony Towns. And again, Cat, former first overall pick. Brandon Ingram, second overall pick. Like, this is a super talented guy that they just believe that in a different frame, in a different context, they can make him shine. Because right now, if the Knicks decide to turn around and try to trade Karl-Anthony Towns, I guarantee you they get a lot more than Julius Randle and Dante.
They would get more than the Mikal Bridges trade, like with Cat.
Hell yes. Yeah, they would.
Was it not last year when the Pelicans were the 1 seed in the West until like mid-January when everyone got hurt and they just fell off a cliff? And wasn't BI a huge part of that?
What do you mean?
Last year, weren't the Pelicans either the 1 or 2 seed in the West until mid-January?
Yes.
I think
BI was a huge part of that.
Brandon Ingram was huge. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he was a huge part of that. Like
Zion was also like balling last year.
Okay, so let's put it this way: they were the 1 or 2 seed in the West, right? And they had BI. BI was healthy and balling. Zion was healthy and balling. Who's better, Zion or Scotty?
That's easy.
If they're both healthy.
If they're both healthy,
Zion.
Zion better. Zion even we matched up against Zion and he like destroyed us.
Wait. You really think that?
If Zion and Scotty are both healthy.
Do you remember how good Zion was in like third year?
Yeah.
Oh, you were expecting me to give you the homer answer. No.
That's my answer.
Dude,
I kind of
agree. Forget how good Zion is.
Like Zion's one of those guys too, though, where it's like size and speed compared to all the talents that Scotty has.
It's close. Like, it's close.
I don't know if it's that close.
Okay, so what does Zion do better than Scotty?
Score.
Rebound.
You just can't stop him.
Rebounding is questionable, but to those of you who may have forgotten this game, I just want to point this out. This is Brandon Ingram's advanced box score against Toronto last year, the game that you were thinking about. Yes, that game. He had a 35.7 box plus minus.
Yeah,
Okay,
he
You
went
know,
it's
you know
really
that.
crazy
funny.
that game.
What was Jaren Jackson's performance tonight? I think that's how good he played then.
He played better. Okay, there's no way in hell Jaren Jackson had 35.7 box plus minus. You understand what 35.7? I have never seen in my life a player 35.7 box plus minus in 30 minutes a game. That's crazy. He put on the masterclass of masterclasses against the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah,
The
it's
Raptors
one of
had
the few
no
games
answer.
I remember like vividly. That and the
Yeah.
San Antonio game when
96%
Scotty
true
Barnes
shooting.
went crazy.
Yeah. So Sacramento, he had a 15 box plus minus game against Sacramento. Charlotte. So to sort it out by, let's just see like where they were. This is how they started the season. Win, 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 win. 4 games that they won. He did not play 3 of them. Worth noting, right? Then he plays loss, 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 5-game losing streak. Then he continues to play, win. Not a huge contribution there. He plays against Sacramento, huge win. Plays another game against Sacramento, okay game from him. So I'm trying to measure out the narrative versus the eye test. How good was he during these games? I think okay. So where were they? They were at this point. They were a pretty decent team for a chunk of this. I mean, in game 27, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So had 16 wins by game 27. So they were 16 and 11, 16 and 12, 17 and 13.
Yeah, then it might have been the season before that. I think it was that Lane guy was talking about because there was a point where they were first in the West and then something happened.
Yeah, maybe it was 2 years ago then.
Yeah, because I do
Wasn't it 2
remember
years
that.
ago where they were just top anyways? They were up there, no?
I remember there was a point where I put a little bit of money on them as my dark horse because I really thought like
This was it 2 years ago. He was
Right.
inactive for most of it, though. Just a heads up. So to give you the context here, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 wins. So they would have been 18 and 8. That would be roughly probably the first team, right? So he was inactive. Of those 18 and 8, he was inactive for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those losses. So they would have won 10 with him. So he
33
was
box score plus minus on one game.
that's game score.
Oh,
So his box plus minus for that year, I mean, he had some impressive ass games 2 years ago. He had one against Utah, 14.4, Golden State, 16.3. I mean, this looks roughly like an all-star. But then look at all the missed time, comes back, struggles a little bit, more missed time. So yeah, this is kind of like the Brandon Ingram experience. It's a little bit like the OG Anunoby experience, but probably a little bit more chaotic. But yeah,
I think this was when his reps started to tank, from what I remember 2 years ago.
yeah, you only get so many injuries before people start to really tag you with that.
And I think
You're
because they went
injury prone.
because that's when they went on the streak without him, and like the people were like, they're just winning without BI, so maybe the fit wasn't it. People were thinking, and CJ just came in, right? And CJ was playing really good, I think.
Sure.
Correctly. So that's
Yeah.
why.
I mean, it also helps that we have a top 3 training staff in the league.
Facts. Yeah.
For sure.
We have a good training staff for sure. Okay, so I'm not going to be on the panel on Friday, but I will be on tomorrow for an hour. FYI to everybody who watches the panel. I'll come on for an hour. I'm sure people will want to know, what the Raptors' perspective is on the BI trade or whatever. But that does mean, since it's 3:30 in the morning, I do need to sleep so I can wake up. Any final thoughts from any of you here?
I just really think this is going to help, yes, offensively, but also it's going to let Scotty lock in a lot more defensively too. He doesn't have to put in so much effort now on the offensive end.
I think there's gonna be a symbiotic relationship between Scotty and Brandon Ingram. They're gonna help each other on both ends of the floor. they're also going to enable each other, like how Kyrie came into the Mavericks initially and helped Luka. It's a similar thing.
Yeah.
With thing, they're going to unlock each other, I think.
Like depending on the fit, is it and the rookies start hitting the shots they're taking and they get confident, we start seeing the more development. I think there's a world where we could be a play-in team.
For me, it's like if
Well,
we
true.
ruin the tank, it's a lot easier to stomach now. I can stomach it with this.
And you never know. Like look at Atlanta last year. Why can't we be Atlanta and get the number 1 pick again? Like you never know, right? I don't know.
Sure.
I'll also play a bit of devil's advocate and say that we're going to lose a lot of games if we at the start, even with BI. But I think it's just like, self-development. It doesn't matter. This year's like a throwaway, basically. Even if like we just start winning, it's like you're just playing with house money at this point.
Mm-hmm. Sean Kawhi. Yo, Sean, I actually know you. You showed up to Penn Dance last year. Yes, you did. And in fact, I've known Sean for a while. That's so cool. I see your picture here. So that's super cool that you're up at this time. In crunch time and playoff offenses go to half court and BI intangibles give Raps a whole new look. Stats don't show that neatly. Absolutely. Sean saying, yo, Rob, what's going on, man? Okay, yeah. I mean, I totally agree. Any thoughts, Lane, based on what you've heard?
I'm excited. I'm excited that they're buying into this team, going to give it a chance. And I'm excited that they're buying in the talent, not buying into, oh, maybe we can rehab this guy. And they've been successful doing that. Like at Ochai Agbaji, right? He was 1 year from being out of the league. If he had another bad year, he was not getting another contract, right? And you rehab him, and now he's a part of your core. We didn't do that this trade deadline. We went out. We got somebody who can be a difference maker. We got somebody who could be the second option on a championship team. Beautiful.
And this trade is miles different from the Jakob trade that we did 2 years ago.
Yeah. James with a hilarious comment here. It said, after this deal, I will only buy American. That's funny. Okay, look, I just want to say that I've spent a great deal of time over the last 2 years trying to bridge my gaps in knowledge, basketball wise. And one of those gaps has been filled through trainers, talking to trainers a lot, trying to understand the ins and outs of elite development, what's possible, what's not possible, what needs to be done when, what types of things are, because again, like you can become too one-dimensional with your basketball coverage and perspectivize everything through numbers and stats or just X's and O's, and you kind of lose the full spectrum of how a scout looks at a player. So in talking to trainers, I have a renewed appreciation for players like Brandon Ingram, who maybe the analytics aren't loving super much right now, but it's like you need to appreciate the art form of basketball too. You need to be able to see how a player's presence on the court bends defenses, right? You need to see that stuff. Like you can't just look at everything like ping pongs and X's and O's on a screen or a chalkboard. Like it has to be like you have to actually understand that there is a fluidity to basketball. Like there is an art form to basketball. There is like there's 2 points and then there's 2 points and then there's 2 points and then there's like the 2 points that nobody can score right now and this guy can get 2 points. You know what I mean? On the box score, it all just says 2 points. Ochai had 2 points, Jacoby had 2 points, but it's like, bro, the 2 points that you got from Brandon Ingram were like 2 points that stopped like a 16-0 run.
2 points is
the
nothing.
Raptors are one of the most horrible isolation teams in the league. The numbers say it. The eye test says it. When they need to score, they can't. And miss me with the bullshit about RJ Barrett being able to get his shot whenever he wants. He can't. He will dribble into nothing. Scotty is a work in progress in this situation. Brandon Ingram can get a shot, though. Like there's bucket getters across the league, man. Like Anthony Simons, Damian Lillard. They're not all the same. They're not equally efficient. But there's certain people who can just pretty much score 2 points out of half-court offense whenever the hell they want. It's one thing to try and develop that. it's another thing to find someone who's naturally kind of been doing that for like the last 15 years of his life and can just sort of seamlessly do it. So I think he takes a lot of pressure off of Scotty and RJ. I think Scotty and RJ are going to play much better with him. And yeah, I hope that this Raptors fan base does give it a chance. I also hope that this Raptors organization does not take this as an opportunity to overpay, too much, right? Like I'm comfortable with $40 million a year on a shorter term deal, but like we start getting to 50, we're starting to get into crazy numbers that frankly I don't think that his talent level and his history warrant $50 million a year.
Preach.
So yeah, that's just where I'm at right now. But this is a huge get for the Raptors. I don't think they gave up a lot, and I do believe there is another shoe that's yet to drop. And I do believe that the Raptors have the potential to make that move even right now if they wanted to. Although I suspect they will wait till the offseason to make that second big move. But they can make a small move that can help them make the big move, if that makes sense. Like they can
What's
stockpile.
our record this year if we had him healthy all year? Think of all those close games if we had someone that could get us 5-6 more points, right?
We've lost a lot of games by 5 points or less.
Yeah, free throws.
Do you know how many games
throws,
we have
free
we have come down to the final 2 minutes and been unable to get a clean look?
I remember there like a streak of games if we lost like that. I remember that at one point in November, we just lost like 4 or 5 games in a row like that.
Yeah, RG and ISO, like he was valiant. He did a valiant effort, but you knew when he was ISOing, there was that feeling in your head. You're thinking, oh no, God, this is not going to look good.
Yeah, and even if they foul him, he's going to miss. I'm going to take off, but I got one last thing to say before I do. Just remember this time last year and how we felt about the direction of this team. If you don't like the trade, just think about trade deadline last year when we were sitting there like, what the hell is going on? How much can change in a year?
Trade deadline last year was positive with Ochai.
Last year was
you mean 2 years ago?
No, I mean, we thought we were going to get rid of Gary. There was a couple people we thought Boucher was gone. There was a couple trades that we thought maybe Bruce Brown.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I
That's
get what you mean. Yeah, like the trades were done in January.
Nothing.
And then we traded a first round pick to get Ochai.
We did nothing at trade deadline. We just did all our trades before January.
Either way, I feel like we finally have a clear direction now. Or if not a clear direction, at least options for a direction where a year ago
we have multiple doors open.
Optimistic, right?
I feel like this is such an awesome 2K trade.
Yeah, for real.
Like the Raptors just got like really fun to play with on 2K. And for that reason alone, I give this deal an A. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, if I had to offer a grade off the top of my head, I would give this grade. I would give the Pelicans an A for this. And I would give, because they had to make the deal. They had to. They were in a pressure situation. I would give the Raptors.
Oh, can he add Ace in? He's trying to get in.
B-. I would give the Raptors a B-. I feel like they didn't like.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, what's up?
All right, I'm taking off though. Have a good one, boys.
I read something very interesting right now. I was questioning his work ethic and his maturity, but where it says right here, it says the guy watches more film than any player I've ever been around except Chris Paul. JJ Redick said that. He's the hardest worker I've seen, said Larry Nance, Ingram's teammates in LA for part of 2 seasons. The rest of us would get to practice and he'd already be drenched in sweat. And then another on the Pelicans teammate commonly praised Ingram for his work ethic. And he was the NBA's most improved player from 2019-2020. And everybody in the locker room very respected him. It's like when your superstar is really good, it's like the Trey Murphy said, everybody seems to follow along. A guy like Ingram listens to his coach, is very good. Garrett Temple said that. He's on our team. Yeah, I questioned a little bit, but nah, this actually did help.
You know, reputation precedes us. Everywhere we go, our reputation precedes us. I know this implicitly. I know this because I have a reputation. Everything I say is unfortunately mirrored back to me with my reputation. Oh, you did this. You said this. Rumors, right? Sometimes. There's nothing that tarnishes your reputation more than people alleging that, one, you have massive injury history. So the injury prone tag. Once that tag gets knocked onto you, there's like some segment of people that just never trust you to be healthy. The second one is the weed stuff, right? People have a lot of baked in assumptions about cannabis users, and one of them is that they're lazy. Now, again, like some people use weed to manage their sleep, some people use it for other things. We have to learn not to judge that kind of shit. But for me personally, I feel like once a label gets attached to an athlete, like choker, quitter, these types of labels, they stay with you for a very long time. They could very, very much distort your actual value as a player. Now, the reality of Brandon Ingram is, as you mentioned, very well liked by his teammates. You can see it. Whenever I've seen Brandon Ingram live, like you see how connected he is with his teammates. Very well liked by most of his coaches that I've heard of. Seems very,
He's
humble,
coachable.
very
Very coachable.
humble, speaks well of his teammates. I never really sensed the big ego about him. He has like a presence to him, like a real presence, to the point where his teammates are calling him a superstar. Honestly, Brandon Ingram is right now, like when he was 22, he was viewed the same way that Scotty Barnes is viewed right now.
True.
Pretty much. Like maybe different type of value, like maybe more scoring, less defense. But that level of player that we're sitting here trying to convince the whole world, Scotty Barnes is up next. That's what Pelicans fans were doing when BI was 22, 23. BI is up next. The next KD, the next whatever. So we're saying, okay, the next Magic, the next Scotty Barnes, the next Scottie Pippen, the next Kawhi Leonard. They were saying the next Kevin Durant, the next Kevin Durant. And of course, Brandon Ingram did deliver on a lot of that promise. Like he's closed a ton of, he's had so many huge moments, So I just feel like get Darko to take him to the next level. I hope he'll be happy here. I hope the fans will have the appreciation and the patience to really, wait and see with him. But I don't buy this bullshit that he is just in free fall. I don't buy this bullshit. I believe that I believe you're taking a player out of a bad situation, putting them into a good one, and hoping that they're right. That's it.
It's like when Kyrie got traded to the Mavs, or like when Kawhi got traded to us. It's like similar situations. Like the scenery changed between both those guys, and they were all in better places.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Sean saying, P.S. 12.1K subscribers. Nice. The road to 13K has begun. Don't forget to hit like. Absolutely. Anyways, man, I'm gonna hit the hay, or hit the sack, or whatever the hell the.
One more very important question for you to fall asleep on.
What's up?
So it's BBQ right now. So do we make it BBBQ, or is like BBQ or IBBQ?
It's BBIQ.
IBBQ.
No, it's BBIQ.
BBIQ. I feel like we just need to abandon that.
Probably.
Completely. Just stop adding D's and B's and
sounds like the Doom game.
Yeah, I feel like we really need to abandon that and just go with something a little bit more innovative. Now, I have coined the term Jurassic 5 for our rookies, which weirdly enough, I'm oddly proud of, no matter how few people will ever adopt that. I just feel like this is it. Jurassic 5, that's what's up. So I feel like
called Jurassic 5.
Rehab 5
goes hard.
Pardon?
Rehab 5.
The Rehab 5? I mean, shit. Like, I don't know about Rehab 5 because I mean that has connotations as it pertains to addiction, but rehab.
I like Jurassic 5. That's sick.
Yeah. So I don't know. We got to work it out. We got to work on a name, but
I think Spicy BBQ had potential when Siakam was still here.
Spicy BBQ.
Spicy BBQ had potential, but I agree. It's almost we need to take an axe and put it in its head.
Well, what's interesting is when we saw RJ, IQ, Scotty, Yak, and Pascal, what you saw, unfortunately, was a really checked out Pascal.
No, I mean like nickname potential wise, it had potential.
Oh, forget
like
the
on the
nickname.
court.
I'm saying like as an on-court product, that quartet, okay, whatever, that 5 unit had like some potential. And I've often thought to myself, if the goal was to get rid of one of OG or Pascal, why do we have to get rid of both? I've always thought about that. I'm like, why do we have to get rid of Siakam? Like, once you got rid of OG, like you've kind of reduced the redundancy of it, and now you're just paying Emmanuel Quickly that money. So now it's like you've taken the money that you would have paid OG and Pascal, and now you're going to split it between BI, IQ, and RJ, and it's going to be the same amount, by the way. It's the same amount of money that you would have split between two players. You're sort of splitting between three players. If you can get Brandon Ingram for $40 million instead of Pascal for 45, and you know, actually that's not entirely true. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's younger.
I think unfortunately they're gonna overpay.
Pardon?
They're probably gonna not overpay, but it's just like the history. It's almost like a Toronto tax. I feel like on players, like when we have to re-sign them, it's often like we have to pay a little bit extra luxury tax.
I think that's why Andrew Wiggins is so happy right now. He's going to a state with no income tax, where he's coming from California, right? I think that's a huge thing for a lot of these guys. Like, guys will be willing to take cheaper deals at places where they're not going to get taxed to death compared to Canada, compared to California, compared to, you know, the East Coast.
New York, yep.
Absolutely.
Like recently, I mean, I know you're not a baseball guy, but recently, you know, my home team, Cincinnati Reds, we got a guy for $5 million, and he had the same offer in Philadelphia for $5 million, but he didn't want to stay because he didn't want to pay that state income tax. You know, it matters. It really does.
I agree. I mean, it definitely matters, and good for Andrew Wiggins moving on. It's so interesting that the starting small forward on 3 NBA champions, or at least the small forward on 3 NBA champions, got dealt today. Chris Middleton, Andrew Wiggins, and Kyle Kuzma. All 3 were at least central parts to, you know, 3 of the last 5 champions, and all 3 got moved today. 2 of them for each other.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna be on the panel tomorrow at 11. I hope I can get some pen dance work done right now before I get, like, I don't know, 2 hours of sleep. But yes, thank you all for getting us past the mark. Thank you to the 20 super chats. That's very, very generous of y'all. So thank you so much for that.
Take it easy, guys.
All right, man. Peace. And thank you to all the callers who sort of, you know, joined in on this conversation. Thank you so much.
No,
appreciate you all.
See ya.
Good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay. Hit like on your way out. 3 hours, 36 minutes, which follows a damn near 2-hour live stream. So that's 5 hours of streaming and no hours of pen dance. Man, I'm screwed. Anyways, I'm not on the panel on Friday, so at the very least I can do it there. But to the 500 of you still here, this episode proudly brought to you by the Pen Dance Film Festival, happening February 27th to March 2nd. Great film festival. Tickets and passes are on sale. What kind of an idiot waits till the 3 hours and 36-minute mark to promote the festival he loves so much? I don't know. Someone who forgets to plug promos. Me. All right. Talk to y'all later. Have a great one. Bye-bye.